Welcome back. Every so often you hear something that doesn't just teach you, it rearranges the furniture in your mind. A truth that flips the story you've been telling yourself and makes the world look different than it did 5 minutes ago. Tonight is a slow walk through those kinds of truths, unsettling, clarifying, the kind you feel more than you hear. So get comfortable, because this is going to be a long one. Some truths don't shout. They whisper from behind every hug and every doorway. This won't last. Every hello comes with a shadow, a quiet countdown you can't see, but you can feel. And your chest tightens because the mind hears a different sentence. Everyone leaves. Is that bleak or is it honest? Here's the strange mercy inside it. The fear isn't only about being abandoned, it's about being powerless in the face of time. People drift, paths fork, bodies get old, love changes shape. That's not failure, it's physics, impermanence doing what it does. The pain lands when we grip with closed fists and try to freeze what was always moving. So what do you do with this secret? You bring it into daylight. Say it softly. Everything I love is passing through. Naming it doesn't kill the love. It kills the illusion. Then you make a small promise to yourself. I won't waste the middle of a story by worrying about the ending. That's not denial. That's focus. Picture a friend you haven't texted in months. Picture the parent who repeats the same story. Picture the partner brushing their teeth, unaware you're watching them like it's a rare comet. Here's the shift. Act as if you already know this moment is a limited edition. Because it is. When you do, everyday things become holy. You listen all the way to the period. You say the awkward gratitude out loud. You take the photo. You forgive at regular intervals. You stop saving the good plates for later. But what about grief? Grief is the bill love asks us to pay when the meal is over, and that's proof you were fed. Give it space. Build gentle rituals that let departures be witnessed. A walk at dusk, a song that means goodbye, a note in your phone you'll never send. Rituals are how the heart learns to carry weight without breaking. And here's the twist. When you accept that everyone leaves, you also accept that, for now, they're here. That makes you braver. You love with open hands. You set clearer boundaries because you're not trying to buy immortality with self-betrayal. You choose presence over surveillance. You let people change. You let yourself change. Still scared? Of course you are. Fear of loss is the tax on being human. Let it ride with you, not drive. Say this when it rises. I can't keep this forever, but I can keep it well. I can meet people where they are, tell the truth kindly, and leave nothing important unsaid. If they go, I'll feel it, I'll honour it, and I'll keep walking. Everyone you love will eventually leave one way or another. That's the cost of being alive. The gift is knowing it now, which turns ordinary time into sacred time, and the people in front of you into miracles you can actually see. Say your full name in your head, first, middle, last. Hear how it rings, how it feels like a key that fits only your door. Now picture a quiet room, 100 years from now where no one says it, the sound is gone. That's the second ending we rarely talk about. You die once when your heart stops. Your body signs its final line. But the one that haunts us is the fade that follows. The day no one remembers your laugh, your weird charm, the way you always tilted your head before a joke. That second death isn't biology, it's erasure. And that's the one our fear keeps circling. What if that fear is a compass? Not a curse, but a nudge toward a life that echoes. Here's the secret in plain language. You don't beat the second death with fame. You delay it with imprints. Small, stubborn impressions pressed into other people's days, a phrase that sticks, a habit you pass along, a kindness that becomes someone else's reflex. That's legacy without the statue. So how do you make an echo? Start absurdly small. Tell a story you've never told to someone who matters. Teach a tiny skill the way your grandmother taught you, with patience and a smile that says, "Keep this." Write a short note to a friend and put one sentence in it that only you could write. Record your voice reading a poem you love. Plant something that takes its time. Share recipes, inside jokes, nicknames. These aren't trinkets, they're memory anchors. What about the work you do? Give away your playbook. Don't hoard the steps. Narrate them. When you lift someone, show them how to lift someone else. A chain like that outlives your calendar. Scared of being ordinary? Good. Ordinary things, repeated with care, become ritual. And rituals carry names farther than monuments do. Ask yourself out loud, like a promise, what will outlive my heartbeat? Pause and listen for the honest answer. Maybe it's the way you greet the barista by name. Maybe it's the kid you mentored who now mentors another. Maybe it's the lightness you bring into a room on purpose, because you know rooms remember. And when grief shows up, because it will, say the names of those you miss. Say them often. Speak them at dinner. Speak them on walks. Each time you do, you pull them back from that quiet room and keep them here a little longer. That practice works both directions. One day, someone will do it for you. You die twice. But the second time slows when you live in verbs, not labels, when your days write stories other people want to tell. Make your name easy to carry. Tuck it into laughter, lessons, and love that travel on without you. Then, even after your heart goes silent, the world will keep answering back with your echo. Still here. Still here. Still here. A quiet truth sits behind your ribs like a candle in a locked room, and some part of you has always known it. One day, the last person who remembers your name will whisper it once and then never again. It sounds cold. It sounds unfair. It also sounds freeing. Because if the finish line is silence, you're suddenly holding the loudest part of life in your hands, the part you can shape right now. Here's the secret most people dodge when they chase legacy and headlines and statues with their faces on them. The point was never to be etched into stone. The point was to be etched into people. Think about it. You remember the way your grandmother laughed, not the date on her mail. You remember the friend who showed up with soup when you were sick, not the title on their business card. Names fade. The feeling they left behind doesn't. So here's the reframe. You don't control who remembers you or for how long. You do control what your presence makes unforgettable. Kindness, attention, courage, the way you look someone in the eyes and really listen. That shift moves you from chasing applause to giving impact, from clinging to being known to choosing to know. For a second, picture a box of old family photos at a garage sale. Strangers flip through faces they'll never name, and yet a picture still stops them. A hand on a shoulder, a kid mid-laugh, a couple dancing in a kitchen. You don't need the names to feel the life humming through the paper. That's the part that lasts longer than ink. Psychologically, when we face a hard truth and name it out loud, yes, even the scary ones like being forgotten, we lower our defenses and open a door to better choices. Your brain stops burning fuel on denial and starts simplifying what matters here and what doesn't. That clarity is powerful. It helps you trade status for substance, noise for signal, and it nudges you toward the kind of impact people feel, even if they never repeat your name. What if you built a life that didn't need an audience? What if being legendary meant one quiet rescue, one honest apology, one brave boundary at a time? What if you measured your days not by mentions, but by moments you'd be proud to repeat? Slow down and listen for the choices hiding in plain sight. When you talk to someone you love, drop the reflex to fix and try the reflex to understand. Let their words land, then mirror the feeling so they feel safe, seen, less alone. When you work, focus on the craft, not the credit. Make the thing so true it stands even if no one knows who made it. When you rest, treat it like fuel, not a prize. Come back with softness in your tone and sharpness in your mind. And when fear whispers you're running out of time, answer back with tiny, steady acts that say, I'm here now. You'll still wonder about being remembered. That's human. But notice what happens when you don't bargain with the future. Your attention gets heavier, your kindness gets warmer, your courage gets louder. The people near you breathe easier, and that ripple is real. One day, yes, your name will be said for the very last time. So make the days before that day count so deeply that names aren't needed. Make meals that taste like love. Tell the hard truths gently. Laugh in rooms that forgot how. Learn someone's story and carry it carefully. Leave places lighter than you found them. You weren't promised forever. You were promised now. And now is enough to become unforgettable where it matters most. Close your eyes for a beat and picture the happiest flash of your life. Now notice how it won't hold still. It slips like water through cupped hands. You try to squeeze tighter and it only runs faster. Here's the quiet truth almost nobody says out loud. Joy fades on purpose. Not because you're broken, not because the moment wasn't real, but because your brain is designed to turn today's fireworks into tomorrow's daylight. That's not failure, that's the system. Think about the last time you got exactly what you wanted. The message came in. You got it. They said yes. You're approved. Your body lit up. Your chest loosened. You felt light. Then a week later, maybe two, you were back to scrolling, fixing, planning the next thing. Where did it go? Psychologists have a word for this. Habituation. The nervous system getting used to what once felt shocking, so you can focus on what's new or threatening. It kept our ancestors alive. It keeps your attention moving. It also means the high you're riding today will feel normal soon. So what do you do with a truth like that? First, stop trying to freeze joy in place. Ice looks pretty, but you can't drink it. Happiness is closer to breath than trophy. It's meant to move through you, arrive, lift you, and go. And here's the twist. If you accept that, you can start feeding it in cycles instead of begging it to stay forever. Let's make that real. Your friend lands a promotion. They call you giddy. I can't believe it, they say. This changes everything. 2 Fridays later, they're venting about the same inbox, just with a bigger title. Nothing's wrong with them. They didn't lose happiness. The spotlight simply shifted. What helps is not holding the light in one place, but moving with it. You do that in a handful of human ways, small, simple, repeatable. You add novelty on purpose, new routes, new recipes, a new song on the way to work. Micro newness refreshes attention, which refreshes joy. You slow the good moments down, savouring. That means naming them as they happen. This coffee is round and warm. That laugh took the weight off my shoulders. Language pins the butterfly long enough to see the colour, then you let it fly. You build gaps, rest, so your senses reset. No guilt, just space. Until ordinary starts to glow again. You make meaning, because meaning stretches joy into a story, not a spike. Ask, what does this moment show me about who I am? Then write one line or tell one person. And here's the one people skip. You share it. Joy multiplies when it's witnessed. Don't just post it, offer it. Today was a good day for me, and I want to make it good for you. Lunch on me. Generosity turns your peak into a bridge. The feeling keeps moving, so it keeps living. Let's take a simple scene. You and someone you love are standing in a kitchen late at night, eating leftovers cold. It's nothing until you light a small candle and say, "This is our tiny celebration." Suddenly the room changes. Why? Because ritual stretches the moment. It gives the joy a container, a way to return. Next time you light that candle, your body remembers. Now, the part that sounds scary, but frees you if you let it. Pain fades too. Not right away, not neatly, and not all at once, but your mind is built to survive. The same system that softens joy will soften the ache. That doesn't erase loss. It means you're not condemned to feel one way forever. It means emotions move, all of them. So if happiness won't hold still, what are you supposed to chase? Not a peak, a practice. A practice of noticing, then naming, of novelty, then rest, of meaning, then sharing, of letting the wave arrive, ride and fall, without calling the ocean broken every time the water pulls back. Ask yourself a simple question. If joy is a guest, how can you be a better host? Maybe you stop planning the perfect party and start setting out a chair, a glass of water, one song. Maybe you clean the room a little, clear the day of one obligation you don't need. Maybe you open a window. Then, when joy knocks, you say, "You're welcome here," and when it leaves, you whisper, "Come back soon." Here's the secret hiding in plain sight. The goal isn't to hold happiness tight, it's to keep making room for it. When you treat joy like breath, you stop panicking when you exhale. You know the next inhale is coming. The terrifying part was thinking you had to feel amazing forever, or it didn't count. You never did. Happiness fades, so life can stay alive. Imagine cupping a candle in your hands, warm, steady. Then, with no wind and no warning, the flame just goes dark. You look at your palms like you missed something. You didn't. Sometimes the light just goes out. Here's the part most of us avoid saying out loud. Love isn't owed to us. It's not promised. It's not a debt to be collected. It's a living thing that chooses to stay or decides to leave. That sounds terrifying, right? But stay with me, because inside that fear is a strange kind of freedom. Think about the last time you felt someone pulling away. Messages got shorter. Plans started to reschedule. You replayed every conversation, every joke, every look across the room. Then, one day, the talk happens. A breath. I don't feel it the way I used to. There's no villain in the room. There's only a truth. And it stings because you did the math, you showed up, you hoped, yet the answer isn't yours to write. So what do you do with a love that isn't guaranteed? You stop trying to trade certainty for connection. You stop making closeness a contract. You start treating love like a gift you hold loosely, with care, not like an object you're afraid to drop. Because when you grip too hard, your hands become a cage, and a heart in a cage doesn't sing. Psychologically, uncertainty hits the brain like a threat, so we reach for control, explanations, strategies, little rules to make the ground feel solid. But control can corrode closeness. Safety comes from choice, from letting each person be free to want you, not forced to reassure you. When there's choice, there's room to breathe and room to stay. Let's bring it down to the kitchen table for a second. Honest, warm, real. Picture this. You sense distance. Instead of pleading, you say, I care about you. I'm here. If your feelings change, I want the truth, not a performance. That's not defeat. That's dignity. It's courage wrapped in clarity. You're not asking to be rescued from loss. You're refusing to be rescued from reality. And here's the quiet twist. Accepting that love can leave doesn't make you colder. It makes you kinder. It shifts your focus from guarding what you can't control to giving what you can. Attention, respect, play, curiosity. You start noticing small things, how they laugh at the worst jokes, how they tilt their head when they're thinking, how they get quiet when they're overwhelmed. You love the person in front of you, not the story in your head. And if the story ends, you don't rewrite the pages with blame. You let the book close with tenderness. There's a paradox in all of this. When you stop trying to guarantee love, you become easier to love. Your presence isn't heavy with fear, it's light. It invites rather than demands. It says, I want you, not I need you to keep me from falling apart. That difference matters. It builds a kind of safety where two people can tell the truth and still feel held. Now, none of this protects you from heartbreak. You will still feel the ache, the kind that sits on your chest in the morning like a stone. But heartbreak is not proof that you failed. It's proof that you dared, that you risked being seen, that you were alive enough to love without a contract. So here's the secret. When love isn't guaranteed, love becomes precious. Every ordinary day gets brighter because it's chosen, not assumed. Every goodbye gets gentler because it's honest, not delayed by promises no one can keep. And every hello becomes a brave act, not a hedge against loneliness. Maybe that changes how you see the world. Maybe it changes how you show up in it. Not clinging, not bargaining, just choosing. Choosing to love fully, to listen closely, to let truth be the thing that holds you when someone else can't. You can't guarantee love, but you can guarantee how you love. That's the part that's yours. That's the part that lasts. Your body is a pickpocket wearing your face. It smiles, it nods, it plays along. And while you're busy living, it quietly lifts tiny pieces of you, not all at once. Not enough to notice on any single day, but over years, over decades, you'll reach for yourself and find that some parts have already slipped away. Here's the secret no one tells you when you're young. The moment you stop growing taller, your body starts growing older. That sounds obvious, but listen to the shape of it. Systems that once raced forward begin to coast. Coasting feels smooth right up until you meet a hill. And age is one long, slow hill. First, the betrayals are subtle. Mornings feel heavier than they should. Your knees whisper after stares instead of staying quiet. You read a label and hold it a little farther than you used to, just a little. You fall asleep faster on the couch, and somehow sleep leaves you earlier than it used to. You'll call these quirks. You'll laugh them off. But they're signals, tiny flags planted on your timeline. Metabolism, that silent furnace, turns its dial down, not because you did something wrong, because the blueprint says conserve. Muscle fibers that once fired like lightning begin to retire. Bones, once like iron rebar, trade strength for brittleness. Collagen doesn't weave as neatly. Skin remembers every sun, every smile, every frown. Your immune system, which used to charge like a cavalry, gets cautious, confused, sometimes overreacts, sometimes underreacts. The thermostat that once kept your body heat steady starts to wobble. And somewhere along the way, your brain quietly optimizes for patterns over novelty. It prefers the familiar path. Curiosity, that bright, childlike spark, needs more kindling than before. Sounds dramatic? It's not drama. It's biology. Your body isn't evil. It's efficient. It's making trade-offs, trimming away high-cost luxuries so you can keep going. But here's the twist. The things it trims are the very things that made life feel effortless. Quick recovery, deep sleep, fast focus, that endless sense of bounce. When those go, you don't crash. You settle. You shrink your range. You stop leaping, so you never notice you can't. When did you stop sprinting? Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't. When did a late night become a 2-day fog? When did your "I'll start next week" become your permanent address? This is the betrayal, not a knife in the back. A negotiation you never knew you were making, paid in installments too small to challenge. And if you're waiting for the day, it becomes obvious that day arrives only after the debt is due. So what do you do with that truth? You stop treating your body like a pet you feed and a machine you drive. You treat it like a partner with moods, with limits, with needs that change. You push it when it's being lazy, and you protect it when it's quietly hurting. You learn its language again. Strength is not a gym word. It's an insurance policy. Pick up something heavy, safely and often. Not to chase vanity, but to tell your bones, stay dense. To tell your muscles, don't you dare retire yet. Walk like it's a daily appointment with your future. Not a heroic march, just consistent steps that teach your heart the rhythm of durability. Eat like you're building, not like you're patching holes. More colour on the plate, more fibre, more protein that actually reaches your cells. Drink water before you're thirsty. Sleep like it's sacred. Protect the dark. Let mornings catch your eyes with real light so your clock remembers the day. And here's the piece everyone forgets. Train balance. Train the small stabilizers, the ankles, the hips, the muscles that keep you from falling when life bumps your shoulder. Falling is the quiet thief of independence. Make it a little less likely, one practice at a time. Guard your mind the same way. Read a few pages you didn't plan to. Learn a new skill that makes your brain feel clumsy. Seek out people younger than you, older than you, different from you. Novelty is fertilizer. Laughter is medicine. Solitude is reset. Friendship is armor. Will this stop the clock? No. Will it slow the subtraction? Yes. Will it make the years you do get feel like yours? Absolutely. But there's something deeper. The body's betrayal is also a messaging code. It says, you don't own this. You steward it, you borrow it for a while, and then you hand it back. That sounds like loss. And in some ways it is. But it's also permission. Permission to stop waiting to be perfect. Permission to do the thing while your knees still bend and your spine still twists and your lungs still fill with air that smells like rain. Not because you're running from age, but because you're running toward life. So ask yourself, gently, right now, where are you handing away small pieces of yourself without noticing? Where could you take one piece back today? The body will still take its share. That's the cost of being alive. But you can decide what you pay and when. Show up for the daily bargains. Keep your strength. Keep your balance. Keep your curiosity. And when the pickpocket reaches out, let it find an empty pocket and a steady gaze that says, not that, not today. There's no grand finale here. Just a quiet practice, repeated. A little more light in the morning. A little less scrolling at night. One deeper breath before you answer. One honest rep you didn't want to do. Those are small things. But small things turn the tide. Your body may be a clever traitor, but with care, with patience, with stubborn, ordinary courage, it can still be your ally long past the years you were told you were done. And that's the real secret worth guarding. Count the people replaying your most awkward moment right now. Go on, count. And here's the twist. It's probably 0. That's the terrifying little relief nobody tells you. The world isn't a jury box with your name on the file. Most people are too busy starring in their own story to track yours. You feel a spotlight on you, right? Like there's a flashlight following your every step. Here's the plain truth behind that metaphor. The light is in your head. Other people are holding their own lights, aimed at their own worries, their own what-ifs, their own mistakes from 5 years ago that still make them wince in the shower. They're not scanning for yours. Think about the last time you went to the gym, or walked into a room, or posted something you weren't sure about. You felt eyes, you imagined whispers. But watch the next time you're in a crowd. Everyone's doing tiny math in their minds. How do I look? Am I late? What did that message mean? Do they like me? Did I mess up? That hum of self-concern is like traffic noise, loud, constant, and mostly about themselves. Does that sound scary? Or does it feel like a key turning an old lock? Here's the secret, gentle and sharp at the same time. People aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. And if they do think about you for a moment, the thought is light as a feather. It drifts in, then floats away. They get hungry. Their phone buzzes. They return to their regularly scheduled worries. So what does that buy you? Freedom. The kind you can feel in your chest. Freedom to learn in public. To try something that might flop. To wear the thing you actually like. To raise your hand with an idea that isn't fully formed. To send the message. To dance off beat at the wedding. To start the project you keep archiving in your mind because the imaginary committee of everyone you know might vote no. That committee doesn't exist. And if someone is judging you, let's be honest about that too. Some people will. But judgment is a thin flame. It flickers and burns out quickly because it's fed by their own insecurity. You don't need to blow it out. You just step out of reach. Meanwhile, the people who matter, the ones building, loving, attempting, failing, learning, see you take a shot and they nod. Quiet approval lives longer than loud criticism. We tell ourselves stories that keep us small. If I speak up, they'll think I'm arrogant. If I try this, they'll think I'm naive. If I change directions, they'll say I'm lost. But here's the reality underneath those stories. Most folks are not keeping a ledger on you. They don't have time. And the ones who do, they're doing it because keeping score distracts them from their own scoreboard. What if you acted like no one was keeping track? What if you gave yourself a permission slip, signed in big letters to be a beginner again? Imagine a day where you let your shoulders drop. You mispronounce a word and smile. You forget a line and improvise. You ask the question anyway. You admit you don't know, and then you learn. Notice how the earth doesn't crack open. Notice how the room doesn't gasp. Notice how, a breath later, everybody's back inside their heads, worrying about their own scene. There's a simple check you can use when fear rattles the door. Ask, will this matter in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years? Usually the answer shrinks the monster. The stakes get right-sized. Your fear won't like that. Fear loves fog. It thrives on the idea that you're being watched, weighed, measured. But when you pull the curtain back and see the tiny operator of the imagined spotlight, fear gets quiet. This doesn't mean you never take feedback. It means you choose whose voices get a chair at your table. Invite the ones who want you to grow. Thank the ones who share with care. And for the rest, the drive-by opinions, the passengers on their own roller coaster, let them pass, not with anger, with a soft smile that says, I've got things to do. So what would you do if you believed this secret in your bones? Would you pitch your wild idea? Would you apologize to someone you miss? Would you pick up the paintbrush, send the application, walk into the room like you belong there because you do? Here's a little practice. Today, Do one thing that the imaginary audience in your head would boo. Wear the loud colour, share the draft, ask for help. Laugh too loudly at something you actually found funny. Then watch what happens. Most people won't notice. A few will smile. One might whisper, "Wow, I wish I had that courage." Suddenly, your act becomes permission for someone else. That's the magic. Courage multiplies. When you finally see it, it's almost too simple. Your life is made of the moves you make, not the running commentary you predict. The commentary isn't real, the moves are. You get to choose which one you feed. No one is thinking about you the way you fear. They're thinking about themselves the way you are thinking about you. That's not sad, that's the hidden door. Push it open. Walk through with your head high and your heart steady. Try the thing. Fail forward. Learn fast. Adjust. Keep going. And when the old panic comes back, because it will, let it speak, then set it down gently. Remind it of the truth. The audience you're afraid of is an illusion. The only voice that decides your next step is yours. Now take it. One step, then another, and another. There's a strange kind of silence that shows up right after a win, like the room forgot to celebrate with you. The goal gets crossed off, your heart finally slows down, and in the quiet you catch it, that tiny ache that whispers, "So, this is it?" It's not a failure, it's a feature. We're told success will flood us with permanent joy, but here's the secret. Success isn't built to satisfy, it's built to signal. Your brain marks the checkpoint, updates the map, and moves the finish line. Psychologically, this is your mind getting used to what it's already seen, habituation, which is why the first bite is magic and the fifth just tastes like food. The same thing happens with achievements. The brain normalizes the new level and the rush fades. Think about the last time you hit a milestone you swore would change everything. The promotion, the diploma, the number on the scale. For a week, maybe two, you rode a high. Then your calendar filled, your old worries put on new clothes. The same dishes waited in the sink, just next to a shinier plaque on the wall. And quietly, you wondered if you missed something. You didn't. You touched the summit and discovered that peaks are tiny, beautiful but tiny. Most of life is the climb and the campsite. The conversations, the practice, the part where your hands learn what your head imagined. That's where meaning lives. Here's the twist. We don't actually crave trophies. We crave what we think they'll purchase. Respect, safety, love, freedom, proof that we're enough. No wonder the win wobbles. A medal can't carry all that. When we ask outcomes to do the work of identity, they buckle. So what do you do with the quiet after the applause? First, name it. Say, there's that post-win dip, and give it room. If you can expect it, you don't have to panic about it. The emptiness isn't a verdict, it's a wave passing through. Second, savor on purpose. Not the scroll post-brag kind, but the slow replay of the moments that mattered. The late nights, the tiny improvements, the people who kept you steady. When you re-feel the process, you reconnect to meaning, not just the momentary spike. Third, define your enough before you chase more. Ask, what would satisfied actually look like in real life? Not perfect, not endless, real. Clear enough is a boundary that protects you from the next. And here's something most people miss. Build rituals that honor the work, not just the win. A walk at sunset, the day you submit. A thank you message to the person who proofread. A quiet dinner without your phone. These small anchors whisper to your nervous system, we did something hard and we're safe to rest. That pause isn't laziness. It's part of the system that makes the next push sustainable. Maybe you're thinking, shouldn't success feel better than this? Yes and no. It can feel better than the hollow spike if you stop treating the medal like medicine and start treating it like a mile marker, not the destination, just proof you're on the road. Notice how your mind keeps chasing the horizon. That's the habit. It says bigger, louder, higher. Not bad, but incomplete. Try widening your life instead of only heightening it. Not just taller peaks, but deeper roots. Not just more, but richer. A simple experiment helps. When you arrive at a result, ask 2 questions and give yourself a beat to answer them out loud. What about this actually mattered to me? Who did I become while I earned it? You'll feel your attention shift from the scoreboard to the story. And in that shift, satisfaction grows up. It stops being a sugar high and starts being a steady warmth. One more truth, and it's tender. The win won't silence your self-doubt. It won't erase old loneliness. It won't fix the ache to be seen. That's not a job for success. That's a job for connection, for honest conversations, for doing what you value, even when nobody's clapping. That's where the deeper steadiness lives. So when the room goes quiet after the cheers, don't rush to the next mountain just to escape the echo. Stand in it. Breathe. Thank the person you were on the way up. Close the loop with a ritual, then choose your next step because it aligns with who you are becoming, not because you're afraid of the quiet. The secret isn't that success is empty. It's that success is too small to hold your whole heart. Let it be what it is, a signal, a checkpoint, a bright flare in the sky, and then keep building a life where the climb, the campsite, and the company are what satisfy. That's the success. Doesn't satisfy secret, not less success, more meaning. Press your finger to your pulse. Feel that tiny stutter when you think about the thing you want. That's your body telling the truth first. You will fail. I know, it sounds like a curse. It's not. It's a compass. Failure isn't a glitch in the code of life. It's the operating system. Everyone you admire, each person who looks untouchable, learned to breathe underwater by swallowing more than a few waves. The secret isn't about avoiding failure. It's about using it before it uses you. Here's the part most people don't want to say out loud. You won't get to skip the falls, not if you try, not if you care. Failure shows up like gravity. It pulls you down to teach you how to stand. That's the metaphor, and here's the plain truth behind it. Falling is information. It shows you where your footing is weak, which muscle needs training, which direction actually holds. So ask yourself this, and let it land. What if the thing you've been calling a verdict is only a measurement? What if the pit in your stomach is just a dashboard light, not a disaster? What if fear is a sign you're taking yourself seriously? The you will fail of it is simple, and it's sharp. You're going to fail, so make that failure small, frequent, and chosen. Don't wait for the catastrophe. Create the rehearsal. Put your idea on a tiny stage and let it bomb where the tickets are cheap. That way, the lesson is loud, the damage is quiet, and your courage grows in public while the stakes stay private. Think of failure like tuition. Not a fine, a fee. You pay it to learn the thing you can't learn by reading about it. You pay in awkward moments, in drafts that don't work, in tries that don't land. And yes, it stings. That sting is the ink the lesson writes itself in. You might say, but what if people judge me? They will, for about a minute. Your tribe, the people who get you, will judge you for your bravery, not your perfection. The rest are background noise. You're not making a life for the peanut gallery. You're building one for the person who looks back at you in the mirror and wants to know, did we try? Here's how you start right now, with zero drama. Pick one small, scary action, the kind that makes your breath catch for a second. Send the message. Ask for the sale. Share the draft. Show up to the room where you might hear no. Then, before the outcome hits, set your metric. Measure tries, not triumphs. Count courage, not applause. Your only job is the attempt. When it goes sideways, and sometimes it will, do a fast, gentle post-game. 3 questions, said softly. What did I learn? What will I try next? Who can help me get there? Notice what's missing. There's no room for a character trial, no invitation to shame. Shame turns mistakes into identity. But we're not doing that. We're doing data, not drama. Build a little ritual. Keep a fail log, a short list of attempts, and the one-line lesson each one gave you. Give your failures names so they stop feeling like monsters. The stalled pitch, the quiet launch, the late start. When you name them, you own them. When you own them, they can't own you. And here's the twist most people never see. Courage doesn't show up first. Action does. Courage is the bodyguard that arrives after you walk into the room alone. That means you don't wait to feel brave. You do the small, brave thing, then the feeling catches up. Momentum is a mood you earn. If your mind keeps replaying past misses, treat that like an old movie. Watch it without the soundtrack. Look for the cut you can make next time. Then ask a better question. Not, why did this happen to me? Instead, what is this trying to teach me? Better questions pull you forward. Worse questions keep you stuck. You will fail. On the way to the interview, in the middle of a new habit, on the brink of something you've wanted for years. And when that happens, promise yourself one thing. You won't make the fall bigger than the climb that led to it. And you won't make the fall smaller than its lesson. You'll feel it. You'll learn from it. You'll go again. There's a quiet confidence that comes from failing on purpose. You stop begging life to be gentle and start getting strong. You stop bargaining for certainty and start building skill. That's when the game changes, because the person who can fail well can't be stopped for long. They're too busy adapting, too busy iterating, too busy getting better in plain sight. So, yes, you will fail. That's baked in, but you get to decide the size of the fall, the speed of the rebound, and the quality of the story you tell yourself after. Choose the small fall today so you don't shatter later. Choose the quick rebound so you don't stall out. Choose a story that paints you as the learner on the rise, not the lost cause. Take one step before you feel ready. Let a little failure in. Invite it to sit at the table as a coach, not a critic. Then do the next brave thing and the next. Breath by breath. Attempt by attempt, you'll prove the secret true in the best possible way. You will fail, yes, and that's exactly how you win. Here's the quiet truth that sneaks in around 3 a.m. when your phone is dark and the world feels too honest. The friends who feel permanent right now are on a clock you can't see. That sounds cold, I know. It's not meant to be cruel, it's meant to be freeing. Friendships drift. Not because you failed, not because they lied. Often it's rhythm. 2 lives change tempo, and the beat you once shared starts to wobble. New jobs, new cities, new worries, new joy. One person steps into early mornings and daycare lines. The other slides into night shifts and side gigs. The conversation gets thinner, not colder. The thread stretches, then one day it's just air. Does that mean it was never real? No, it means it was alive. Alive things change. They grow, they molt, they wander. A friendship is a living thing, not a stone statue in a museum. It breathes. It needs seasons. Some are bright and loud, some are quiet, some are endings. You only notice long after the last laugh. You feel it in small moments. The group chat that once popped every hour now feels like a slow snowfall. Messages land softly, far apart. You tell yourself, I should reach out. You tell yourself, they should reach out. Days stack up. Guilt sneaks in. Then the mind starts writing a story. Maybe they don't care. Maybe I'm forgettable. Maybe I did something wrong. Stop there. That story is almost always fiction. What's actually happening is gravity. Life pulls on each of you from different sides. It's not betrayal. It's physics. It's two timelines crossing, then diverging, still real, still valuable, just no longer on the same track. Here's the secret inside the secret. The goal isn't to keep every friend forever. The goal is to love people fully in the chapter you share, and to leave the door unlocked when the chapters change. Hold your friendships like an open palm, not a clenched fist. A fist gets tired, it pinches, it scares people away. An open palm says, I'm here if you're here, and if you're not, I'll still bless your road. But what do you do with the ache? You honor it. You let it be grief. You don't shame yourself for caring. You let the sadness name what mattered. Then you use that feeling as a compass. If a friend still lights your soul, say so. Not a heavy speech, just a simple note. I miss you, and I'm grateful for what we built. Want to grab coffee next month or catch a call this weekend? Keep it small, specific, easy to say yes to. And if they don't respond, or the timing never works, you keep the blessing. You release the story that says it's about your worth. It's not. Your worth is not on the line. It never was. There's another layer, and it stings a bit. You'll be the one who drifts too. You'll outgrow a dynamic. You'll feel your heart tug you toward a different shoreline. That doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. When that happens, choose kindness. Don't ghost if you can help it. Say it plainly with warmth. Life's pulling me in a new direction, and I'm grateful for every mile we've walked. That's not drama. That's adulthood with a little grace. Here's a practical way to live this without turning into a cynic. Build small rituals that keep the door open. Send one unearned compliment when someone crosses your mind. Screenshot the memory that made you laugh and toss it their way. Mark one floating date each season for a slow, no-agenda catch-up. Not a grand reunion tour, just a gentle check-in. And here's the twist. Accept the silence that sometimes follows. Silence isn't always a verdict. Sometimes it's just life being loud elsewhere. Also, make room for new people. Not as replacements, as additions. You're changing. You need friends who meet the person you are now, not just the person you were then. That doesn't erase the past. It widens the circle. Think of your heart as a house. Some people live there for years. Some pop in for a weekend and leave a story that never stops warming the hallways. So what's the terrifying part? It's realizing there's no permanent roster, no guaranteed cast. Just you, standing at a platform where trains come and go, carrying faces you love. You can't stop the departures, but you can wave, you can thank them, and you can keep your suitcase packed for the next arrival. And the hopeful part? You carry pieces of everyone you've ever loved. Their jokes are still in your voice. Their courage is still in your spine. Their kindness is still in your hands. That's the secret most people miss. Friends aren't forever as people in your daily calendar, but the friendship is forever as a shape in your character. If you feel someone drifting, breathe. If they matter, reach out with no pressure. If it's time to let go, bless the road and keep your heart open, always. One last question that deserves its own space. Who's on your mind right now? Send the message, not later. Now. A simple line. No expectations, just love, lightly held with an open palm. Picture this. You finally break your best record before breakfast. And by lunch, a kid on the other side of the world has already made it look small. That sting in your chest? That's your ego discovering a secret it hates. There's always someone better. And here's the twist. It's not a curse, it's a compass. We grow up believing there's a top of the mountain. One winner, one gold medal, one best. But life isn't a single podium. It's a moving, endless landscape. The finish line shifts. New games pop up. New skills appear. If you chase the best, you'll wake up exhausted and behind even when you're ahead. So what do you do with a world that won't let you be number one for long? You change the game from best to only. Instead of obsessing over winning one lane, stack lanes. Blend your strengths, your weird interests, your lived experiences into a mix that's unmistakably yours. Think of it like a recipe. Someone might be better at the spice, someone else at the sauce, but nobody cooks your exact dish. And that dish can be the thing that turns competition into collaboration. Because when you're the only one doing your thing, there's room for everyone. Still, that old itch to compare will crawl back. So let's disarm it. When you see someone far ahead, don't say, "I'll never catch up." Ask, what are they optimizing for? Maybe they're faster because they optimized for speed while you optimized for depth. They're better at sprinting, you're better at stamina. Different scoreboards, different games. If you swap games, you swap strengths. Jealousy shows up? Good, that flinch is data. It points to a desire you've been ignoring. Treat it like a map, not a verdict. The moment you feel envy, pause. Name what you admire. Craft, consistency, courage. Then translate that feeling into one small, visible action you'll take today. Not tomorrow. Today. Comment thoughtfully. Ask a question. Try a tiny version of what they did. Move jealousy from your chest into your calendar. Here's another shift. Drop the idea that mastery means graduating. As if you finish, get a certificate and you're done. The people who quietly pass you aren't louder, they're just consistent. They build the kind of life that makes improvement a default, not a heroic push. They lower the friction. They pick a daily minimum so easy it's almost silly, and they do it with religious calm. 5 minutes of scales, 10 pages read, one sketch, one paragraph, it compounds. If you think repetition is boring, remember this. Boredom is the lock. Repetition is the key. The best get good at being with the boredom, long enough to find the hidden details everyone else rushes past. That patience looks slow, but it's the runway for flight. Now, let's deal with the fear under all this. The fear that if you aren't the best, you aren't enough. That's a lie. The truth is simpler and kinder. Your worth has never been a scoreboard. You never had to earn your right to exist by outrunning everyone you know. And when you stop tying your value to victory, you get something stronger than confidence. You get freedom. You can risk. You can experiment. You can lose today and still show up tomorrow because your identity isn't on trial every time you try. If you really want an edge, build an apprentice mind. Keep asking, like a beginner, what am I missing? It sounds humble, but it's secretly powerful. Beginners notice the obvious. They ask the questions experts are too proud to ask. And those obvious insights often become the breakthroughs. The apprentice mind keeps you curious, keeps you moving, keeps you learning faster than the person who's busy protecting their title. And here's the part nobody mentions. When you stop worshipping the idea of better, people become people again. The chess genius stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. The runner who laps you becomes a pacer you can draft behind. The singer with the range you don't have becomes a collaborator who makes your voice sound richer. You start building a tribe, not a tally. You go farther together than you ever could alone. What about the ache of being behind? That ache means you care. Let it stay, but sand off the edge. Care enough to practice, not to punish. Speak to yourself like you would to your closest friend, direct, honest, and kind. You'll be amazed how much faster you grow when your inner voice stops heckling and starts coaching. This might sound simple, and it is, but simple doesn't mean easy. You'll still have days when someone's highlight reel rattles your bones. On those days, fall back on your design. Do your small thing. Protect your streak. Ask one question. Take one rep. One, then another, then another. You're building a life where growth is baked in. That's stronger than any spark of motivation. So the secret isn't to outshine everyone. It's to outlast the urge to chase everyone. The secret isn't to win their game. It's to choose yours so clearly that comparison loses interest. The secret isn't that someone is always better. It's that better is boring when you can be different and useful and relentlessly yourself. When you get this in your bones, pressure turns into fuel. You'll stop asking, "Am I the best yet?" and start asking, "Am I getting better at the thing that matters to me?" That question is sane. That question is sustainable. That question sets you free. And when the next prodigy sprints past, let them. Smile, nod, take what you can learn from their stride. Then look back at your path, narrow your focus, and keep walking. You're not late, you're not early, you're right on time for your own story. That's the real secret. Not to be the best in the world, but to be the only you in it. And that, quietly, steadily, beats almost everything. Here's a strange relief. Most people never get told at dinner tables. The scales were never balanced, and they're not about to be. That sounds harsh, but breathe with it for a second. If you wait for life to get fair, you'll wait forever. The traffic lights won't sync for you. The weather won't clear because you planned a picnic. That co-worker might get credit for your idea. A random break will land in someone else's lap while you're still grinding. It's not a glitch. It's the terrain. The secret is not fixing the world to fit a rule that never existed. The secret is learning how to move inside a world that's lopsided and learning to win anyway. Think about childhood. 2 kids study. One skims and somehow aces the test. You sweat every chapter and scrape a decent grade. You feel that sting, that voice saying, "This isn't fair." Now fast forward, a promotion goes to someone who plays golf with the boss. You train the team, you hold down the deadlines, and still that door doesn't open. Same sting, same voice. If you build your life on the promise that fairness will come, every disappointment feels like a breach of contract. But if you accept the reality, life isn't fair and never will be, you get something better than fairness. You get clarity. You stop bargaining with the clouds and start building a roof. Here's the reframe. Fairness is a story we tell to soothe our nerves. Agency is a choice we make when the story fails. When life tilts, you have levers. Where you spend your time, which skills you stack, who you stand beside, how long you're willing to play. Unfair doesn't mean unwinnable. It means the path isn't symmetrical, so your strategy can't be either. Picture this. You want a role you're underqualified for on paper. You can complain about gatekeeping, or you can build undeniable proof. A small portfolio, a side project, a case study that solves a problem they actually have. You can't control who their cousin is, but you can make it harder to ignore you. Another scene. You're overlooked in meetings, not fair. Start sending short summaries after every discussion. Clear, useful, action-focused. Suddenly your fingerprints are on decisions, not louder, just smarter. And here's the twist. Psychologically, waiting for fairness drains motivation because the cause and effect feels broken. But acting where you do have influence flips that circuit back on. It rebuilds your sense of control, your momentum, your courage. Small wins compound. Like interest, you can't see day 1, then can't ignore day 100. The map doesn't flatten, but your legs get stronger. So what do you do when life tilts against you? A few anchors. First, define your arena. Some games are skill games, some are politics, some are pure luck. If you're stuck in a slot where luck dominates, carve a lane where skill shines. Second, stack an unfair advantage of your own, something rare and useful. Maybe it's speed plus reliability, creativity plus follow-through, empathy plus data literacy. Third, play longer. Time is leverage. If you can keep showing up after the novelty wears off, doors open other people didn't see. And notice this. When you stop counting cosmic points, you start spotting openings. The quiet task nobody wants that teaches you the whole system. The unglamorous client that becomes a testimonial machine. The night class, the early email, the patient habit. None of that fixes fair. It fixes your footing. Is it exhausting sometimes? Yes. You're allowed to feel the sting. You're also allowed to choose what comes next. Rage costs energy. Strategy returns it. You can't make the rain stop. You can learn where the drains are and build where the ground stays dry. Here's the deeper relief. You don't need the universe to be even. You need a plan that works in uneven places. The minute you make that mental shift from this should be fair to this is the field, so here's my play, your posture changes, your voice changes, people feel it, you feel it. Life isn't fair, it never was. That's not the curse, that's the clue. Stop begging the scale to balance. Become the weight. And if you ever forget, remember this line, say it out loud, let it steady you. The secret isn't fairness, it's leverage in an unfair world. Clench your fist as tight as you can. Feel that buzzing ache in your palm? That's what chasing total control feels like. Tension masquerading as safety, pressure posing as order. And here's the unsettling twist. The tighter the grip, the less you're actually holding. Think about the last time a day went off script. You planned, you scheduled, you lined up every box, and then a late email, a sudden delay, a small crisis knocked the dominoes sideways. Your heart raced, your mind sprinted, and you tried to wrestle everything back into place. But did force fix it? Or did it make you frantic? Here's the secret most people don't say out loud. The control you think you have is mostly an illusion. What you have, what you've always had, is influence. Your attention, your choices, your next sentence. That's your slice. And owning your slice isn't surrender, it's strategy. When you stop trying to steer every moving piece and start naming your part, just your part, the whole room shifts. Tension drops. Options show up. People lean in. Psychologically, loosening your grip creates safety, lowers defenses, and opens the door to actual progress. Picture this. You're in a meeting that's going sideways. Voices rise. A plan that took you weeks is unraveling right there on the table. The impulse is to push harder, talk faster, prove you're right. Instead, you take a breath and say, here's what I can own. I could have looped you in earlier. Let me do that now. That tiny pivot, claiming your slice, doesn't make you smaller. It makes space. It changes the dynamic from opposition to collaboration, because responsibility is contagious when it's modelled, not demanded. Control screams, fix everything now. Influence whispers, shape what's yours, and the system will respond. Not control, but clarity. Not force, but influence. Not domination, but direction. But what about the fear? Because yes, there's fear of letting go. Consider this. When your mind isn't white-knuckling uncertainty, it sees better. A rested mind makes better decisions. It's more creative, more emotionally steady, and far more likely to choose well because rest isn't a reward you earn at the end. It's part of the system that keeps you sharp. When you build in breathing room, pauses between calls, a walk before a big choice, a quiet minute before you respond, you don't lose time. You gain judgment. And in conversations, the same truth holds. You can't control someone else's reaction, but you can listen in a way that lowers the temperature and builds trust. When someone feels understood, they stop bracing and start considering because feeling safe flips the brain from defense to curiosity. You don't win by overpowering a point. You win by creating the conditions where a better answer can appear. So what does this look like in real life? It's choosing the next honest action instead of the perfect outcome. It's saying, I can't predict every curve, but I can steer my response. It's organizing the part you can touch, your calendar, your preparation, your follow-through, and then meeting reality as it is, not as you demand it to be. You'll notice something strange happens when you do. People mirror your steadiness. Rooms calm down. Plans evolve instead of explode. Influence multiplies. Ask yourself gently, what if the tighter your grip, the less you hold? What if the space you're afraid to leave is exactly where better options breathe? What if you don't need more force? You need more focus. The secret isn't to control the storm. It's to become the person who can navigate it. You set your sails, you read the wind, you adjust the rudder, and the ocean remains bigger than you. That's not defeat. That's wisdom. And it's powerful. Own your slice. Claim your words. Choose the next small move you'd be proud of, even if everything else is swirling. Psychologically, that single shift from chasing certainty to creating safety and clarity makes collaboration possible and growth inevitable. Keep making those moves, with rest as a real part of your system, and you'll notice the illusion of control fading into something sturdier. Trust in your ability to respond well again and again. That's the control is an illusion secret. You don't need to hold everything. You only need to hold what's yours firmly, calmly, and on purpose. If you could rewind tonight and change one small choice, your mind would still find a reason to flinch. That's the unnerving part. Even with a different move, your brain will whisper, what if the other path was better? That whisper never promises silence. It just changes costumes. Here's the secret most of us avoid admitting out loud. You can't escape regret. You can only choose your version of it. Not zero pain, but a pain with purpose. Not no loss, but a loss you can stand beside without hating who you became. Picture 2 nights, nearly identical. In one, you stay late, answer the last email, earn the nod. You miss the sunset your friend texted you about. In the other, you close the laptop. Go watch the sky melt from orange to violet. Laugh at something small, and that email waits till morning. One night leaves you wondering if you neglected your ambition. The other leaves you wondering if you neglected your life. Either way, a tiny ache. So the question isn't, how do I avoid regret? It's, which regret can I live with? And which regret will shred my sleep? Psychologically, regret shows up because your mind compares the real path to an imagined one that keeps getting edited to look perfect. That comparison is sneaky. It highlights the best of what you didn't pick and the worst of what you did. That's why even wins can feel thin and losses feel endless. Knowing this doesn't erase the feeling, but it gives you a move. Expect regret, then steer it. Choose the kind that aligns with your values, not the kind that pleases your fear. Try this in tiny moments. Text the friend you've been meaning to reach out to, and accept you might regret the awkwardness more than the silence, or you might regret the silence more than the awkwardness. Either way, you choose. Speak up in the meeting and risk sounding rough, or stay quiet and risk sounding invisible. Choose. Say, "I love you" first, and risk the air hanging heavy, or wait and risk wondering for months. Choose. When you label it as a choice of regrets, clarity clicks. Courage gets a handle to hold. And here's the twist. You can preview regret before it arrives. Imagine your 70-year-old self. They're not counting perfect outcomes. They're counting who you became because of your choices. Ask them softly, which pain would you respect me for, trying and losing or staying safe and shrinking? The answer isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a walk, saying no, or asking for help. We think regret is a verdict. It's not. It's a receipt. It shows you what you paid attention to and what you didn't. When it stings, it's showing you your values in negative space. If you listen, you learn. If you learn, you move. Here's a practical reframe you can use right when your stomach tightens. Not, "How do I avoid this feeling?" but "What do I want the story to be when this feeling fades?" Not, "Which option has no risk?" but "Which option grows my capacity for the life I want?" Not, "How do I make everyone happy?" but "How do I act in line with my compass, even if someone's disappointed?" That shift from avoiding regret to choosing a worthy regret turns fear into a filter instead of a jailer. And yes, you'll still feel the pang. You're human. Let it pass through. Name it. Breathe. Then translate it into a next step. Apologize sooner. Schedule the thing. Save the money. Take the class. Call them back. Keep your word to yourself even when no one's watching. That's how regret stops being a ghost that haunts you and becomes a guide that humbles you. Because the real terror isn't that regret exists. It's pretending you can outrun it and letting that fantasy make your world smaller. The honest, braver path is to pick the regret you can stand behind, the one that builds you, even if it breaks you a little. When the moment comes, choose the regret that honors your values, your people, your future self. Regret is inevitable. Meaning is optional. Choose the regret that makes meaning. Picture this. You're standing on a shoreline at night, waves crashing, someone you love flailing in the water, calling your name. Your heart sprints, your feet move, your hands reach, and then the cold truth knocks the wind out of you. Some hands will slip from your grip, no matter how tightly you hold on. That truth hurts. It feels unfair, even cruel, because you're kind, you're loyal, and you've promised yourself you won't abandon people. You don't just want to help, you want to save. You want to be the one who shows up when no one else does. You want to pull them from the dark and set them back on their feet, safe, grateful, healed. That's a beautiful instinct. It's also the beginning of a quiet self-destruction. Here's the secret most people whisper, only after they've run out of energy, money, and hope. You can't save everyone. Not the friend who refuses to break the cycle. Not the partner who confuses your love with an endless clean-up crew. Not the relative who turns every lifeline into a rope to drag you under. And not the stranger who only wants your attention, not your help. Why is that? Because saving someone requires two things you can't control: their willingness and their work. You can offer your time, your resources, your best advice. You can carry them for a while, but if they won't walk, if they won't face what they've been avoiding, your effort turns into weight on your chest. Pull long enough, and you drown with them. Lifeguards have a rule: never go in without a float. It isn't selfish, it's survival. The float is a boundary, something that keeps both of you above water. In life, boundaries are your float, not walls that shut people out, floats that keep you from going under while you reach for them. No boundary, no rescue. Just two people struggling until neither can breathe. But there's another layer, and it stings. Some people don't want to be saved. They want to be seen suffering. They want sympathy, not change. As twisted as it sounds, the problem gives them identity, attention, excuses. And here's the twist. The more you rush in, the more you protect the problem from consequences. You become part cushion, part shield, part free pass. Love morphs into enabling, and help slowly becomes control in disguise. So what does real help look like? It sounds like, I'm here, I'm listening, I can do this much, no more. It looks like offering a next step, not carrying every step. It means asking, do you actually want support, or just space to vent? It's giving clear options instead of becoming a bottomless well. It's refusing to wrestle someone's demons for them because you'll lose every time. There's a myth that if you set limits, you're cold. That if you let someone face the edge of their choices, you're heartless. The truth is the opposite. Limits keep your compassion honest. Limits keep you from watering a field that doesn't want to grow. Limits keep your yes meaningful. Without limits, your kindness turns bitter, resentful, and exhausted, and nothing loving grows from exhaustion. Let's talk triage. When everything feels urgent, nothing truly urgent gets handled. You'll meet three kinds of people when you try to help. The first will meet you halfway. They'll stumble, but they'll move. Invest here. The second will take a little, disappear, come back a little worse, and repeat. Offer small, clear help, then step back. The third will fight the help itself, accuse you when you pause, and punish you when you don't. That last group will teach you the most important word you'll ever say. No. Does saying no mean you're giving up? No. It means you're choosing effectiveness over ego. It means you recognize that your worth isn't measured by how many crises you absorb. It means you understand that someone else's rock bottom belongs to them, not to you. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is allow reality to speak in a voice louder than yours. But how do you know when to hold on and when to let go? Listen for willingness. Is there ownership, real ownership, or just stories? Is there a plan, one small step, or only drama? Do boundaries get respected, or do they get tested, then broken, then mocked? Your gut already knows. It's just been trained to apologize for speaking up. Stop apologizing. Start listening. If you choose to help, bring a float. Set a time limit. Name what you can give. Ask what they'll do next. Ask again a week later. Celebrate effort, not excuses. And if all you get is smoke and mirrors, step back, not in anger, in clarity. Because you matter too. Your sleep matters. Your joy matters. Your peace is not a bargaining chip to trade for someone else's refusal to change. Here's the paradox. The moment you accept, you can't save everyone. You become more helpful to the ones who can be saved. You conserve energy for the willing. You become consistent, not chaotic. Your presence stops being a frantic siren and becomes a steady light. And that's what you are at your best, a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't swim out into every storm, begging boats to be rescued. It stands where it stands. It shines. It says, "Here I am if you want to find your way." Some boats will steer toward the light. Some won't. The lighthouse doesn't chase. It doesn't drown. It keeps shining. So breathe. Let go of the invisible contract that says you must fix every broken thing to prove your love or your goodness or your worth. You don't. You can be kind without being consumed. You can care deeply without becoming the cure. You can love boldly and still say, "This is where I stop and where you start." Not everyone will choose the shore. That's the terrifying part. But the ones who do, they'll walk out of the water, on their own legs, with gratitude, not dependency. And you'll still be standing, steady, clear, alive, ready for the ones who are ready for themselves. Feel that soft thud under your ribs. That's your countdown, whispering that the finish line isn't on some distant horizon. It's pacing beside you. Here's the secret people dodge with jokes and distractions and busy calendars. Death is closer than you think. Not to make you afraid, to make you awake. We imagine a long runway, a tidy set of laters stacked in a neat little row. Later, I'll apologize. Later, I'll leave that job. Later, I'll love with my whole chest. Then later, slips, just a fraction, and another fraction until it's gone. How close is it? Closer than your next big plan, closer than the weekend you're banking on. Sometimes it's a wrong turn, sometimes it's a tiny clot, sometimes it's nothing dramatic at all, just a quiet fade at the end of a perfectly ordinary day. That's the part that rattles us. The last coffee might be the one you gulp without tasting. The last laugh might be the one you cut short because you felt silly. The last I love you might be the one you assume they already know. What would you do if you knew the balance was thin? Would you keep waiting, or would you move? When we hear death, we think of endings. The trick is, it's also a lens. Look through it and everything sharpens. The petty argument looks smaller. The sunrise looks enormous. That text you're too proud to send, the lens shows you the cost of silence. Death compresses the timeline and squeezes the noise until what matters steps forward and clears its throat. You don't need a near miss to understand this. You just need to pay attention to the texture of a day. The way your chest warms when someone uses your name kindly. The way fresh air tastes after a long room. The way your body wants to move, even if it's tired. When you notice, you become a little braver. Because once you see the edges, you stop pretending the canvas is infinite. Here's the twist. The closeness isn't a curse, it's a compass. It points to what deserves your limited heartbeats. And yes, they are limited, like a handful of coins you can spend only once. Spend them on doom scrolling, or spend them on a slow walk with someone you love. Spend them on proving you're right, or spend them on listening fully until the heat drains from the room. Every little choice is a quiet vote for the life you're actually living. So ask yourself gently, if this was the last morning, what would you say? If this was the last evening, where would you stand? If this was the last chance, what would you finally forgive? Give yourself a beat after each question. Let the answers rise without judgment. You'll notice a pattern. The answers are almost never about money, status, or winning. They're about presence. They're about love and gratitude and the steady relief of telling the truth. They're about saying the thing while the person is still here to hear it. It doesn't mean you rush into recklessness. It means you stop dragging your feet on the promises your soul keeps making. Take one small step today. One apology, one boundary, one deep breath by an open window, one messy, honest conversation. 1 hour where your phone is not the main character. It won't look heroic on a highlight reel. It will feel real in your chest. The fear says, don't look at it, it's too heavy. But notice what happens when you do look. You get lighter. When you stop outsourcing tomorrow to a fantasy, your hands open. You begin to meet people as the fragile, luminous creatures they are, not as obstacles or avatars. You laugh easier, you cry quicker, you waste less time performing and spend more time being. Maybe you're thinking, but I'm young. Youth is a story we tell ourselves to avoid the mirror. The mirror doesn't care. It reflects everyone at every age. You can be 20 and already sleepwalking. You can be 80 and more alive than ever. Aliveness isn't a number, it's a posture. It's how you hold an ordinary day and refuse to treat it like scrap. There's also the courage that comes from owning the end. Courage to attempt the thing you've postponed for years. To write the book that embarrasses you. To cook for your neighbours, because community doesn't just appear. To love someone without a cage of preconditions. The closeness of death is the permission slip. It says there's no audience to impress, only a life to inhabit. And when regret tries to creep in, because it will, meet it with tenderness. You're here now, breathing, listening. You have time. Not endless time, but enough for the next right step. Enough to make one choice that aligns with who you are becoming. Enough to turn toward what matters and whisper, I'm ready. So take inventory. The shelf of grudges, dust it off and let a few go. The box of unstarted dreams, open it even if your hands shake. The jar of kind words you've been saving, pour it out today. Let people hear your warmest thoughts while they can still look back and smile. Death is closer than you want to admit, and that's the secret. It's not here to steal your joy. It's here to return it. It hands you a clock with a shorter hand and asks, what will you bless with your attention? What will you stop postponing? What will you forgive so you can be free? Put your fingers to your pulse for a second. That rhythm is both a warning and a promise. A warning that nothing lasts. A promise that, for now, you do. Choose how you'll spend these beats. Choose with softness. Choose with courage. Choose like someone who understands that later is a rumour and now is real. Then take one small step and let it count. They never told you this at the starting line. Some races begin with one runner already halfway down the track, smiling, waving, like the laws of gravity picked a favourite. That's real. Some people are born into rooms you'll never be invited to. They start with money, networks, mentors, a safety net woven tight. And if you felt that sting, that why bother, you're not wrong to feel it. But here's the twist. The biggest unfair advantage isn't what you're given. It's what you choose daily when no one's watching. Think about attention. Not the loud kind, the kind that catches what others miss. You're in a meeting. Someone shares a plan, and a guy with perfect teeth and a perfect resume rattles off big words and bigger promises. Then there's you. You say, sounds like the timeline was the killer last quarter. What part felt crowded? The air shifts. Shoulders drop. People lean in. Trust arrives. Attention did that. When someone feels heard, not fixed, defences fall and they open the door you couldn't pry with force. Psychologically, that kind of listening creates safety and lowers resistance, which is exactly why it wins more than noise ever will. Or look at effort. You can't borrow someone else's talent, but you can build a reputation for what you repeat. Here's a quiet rule that tilts the field. Praise process, not just results. Tell your team, your friends, yourself, I saw how carefully you prepared, not just you crushed it. That tiny shift fuels a growth loop. People respond to the feedback they receive, and when the message is keep choosing the right behaviours, they keep choosing them. Over time, that compounds into identity, then into outcomes. That's an advantage you can scale. And here's one almost no one believes until they feel it in their bones. Rest is leverage, not laziness. Leverage. When you plan recovery like it's part of the work, your mind gets sharper, your decisions cleaner, your patience longer. It's not a pause at the end. It's part of the system that keeps you creative, steady, and hard to shake. That's an advantage built in the dark, while everyone else is bragging about being always on. So what's the unfair advantage secret? It's choosing a different game. Not faster, smarter, not louder, deeper. It's the craft of turning constraints into edges. If you can't out-network someone, out-listen them. If you can't out-talent them, out-consistency them. Write 2 pages each morning before the world wakes. Make 5 brave calls while fear still whispers. Leave 1 clean, honest note of appreciation every day. These are small edges, but they stack and they stick. Picture this. 2 designers start at the same company. One shows dazzling mock-ups and gets applause. The other keeps asking, what problem hurts most? They mirror frustrations to make people feel understood. Then they ship small wins every week. 6 months later, whose name do people quietly trust when it's time to bet the project? There's your answer. Consistency plus connection turns into gravity. The room starts pulling you in. And yes, there's one more layer. When you spot potential in others and say it out loud, you make allies for life. You become the person who makes people braver. That reputation travels faster than any resume. It moves doors on their hinges. Let's reframe the story we were handed. The default story says life is a zero-sum scramble. An advantage is locked at birth. But the better story says advantage is a set of learnable behaviours, attention, process, recovery, reframing that compound over time and turn strangers into believers. That shift from competition to connection changes how you play and what you win. So, no, you can't rewrite who got what at the beginning. You can rewrite what you build from here. Choose the edges that multiply with time. Choose the moves that nobody can take from you. The biggest unfair advantage isn't inherited, it's engineered. Picture a clock with no numbers, just a quiet second hand dragging its feet. That's what most days feel like when your life is full, but your time isn't yours. You wake up already sprinting, trading minutes for tasks you don't remember choosing, and by night you're too tired to even ask why. Here's the twist most people miss. Money isn't for buying more stuff. It's for buying back hours you've been giving away without noticing. That's the real purchase. It's not about a bigger pile of things. It's about a bigger space to breathe. That reframe changes everything. Think about a common morning. Your sink is full. Your inbox is full, your schedule is packed, you make coffee, skim headlines, and start juggling. Now imagine this instead. You set aside a small amount each week and pay for grocery delivery. You hire a neighbour's teenager to mow the lawn. You set a hard boundary on meetings that don't need you. The result isn't luxury. It's 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there, a quiet hour that didn't exist yesterday. That's not indulgence. That's life support. But isn't that wasteful? Only if you keep using that time the same old way. The point isn't to cram in more chores. The point is to fill that reclaimed time with what moves your life forward or what makes you feel human. Call your mum. Stretch. Read 5 pages without your phone. Take a slow walk and notice the light on the trees. These are small, yes, but time multiplies when it's chosen, not chased. Here's a simple scene. A friend says, "I can't afford delivery. I'd rather save the fee." You nod, fair point, then ask, what if that fee buys you 2 hours with your kid this week? You can see it hit. The math changes when you count in minutes, not dollars. Money buys time, and time is the only currency you can spend on meaning. Psychologically, buying back even a single hour creates a sense of autonomy. You feel like you're steering, not being dragged. It reduces decision fatigue because fewer low-value choices clog your day. and autonomy matters. When people feel they have a say, they show up with more energy, more patience, more willingness to invest in what matters. Here's the twist inside the twist. It's not about laziness. Rest is strategy. When you purchase time, you're not pausing life, you're fueling it. Your thinking gets clearer, your emotions steadier, and your choices kinder. Rest isn't the pause at the end, it's part of the system. Try a tiny experiment. Pick one task you secretly resent, the errand that eats a whole afternoon, the chore that steals your Sunday, the drive that drains your patience. Outsource it, batch it, or upgrade it. Pay once to learn a skill that saves you hours every month. Pay once for a tool that cuts the task in half. Pay once for childcare so you and your partner can actually talk without whisper shouting over dishes. Then protect that reclaimed time fiercely. Spend it deliberately on your health, your relationships, your craft. That's the investment with compounding returns. What about guilt? Guilt is just the echo of an old story that says worth equals busyness. But busyness is a costume. You're allowed to take it off. You're allowed to value a calm mind over a crowded calendar. When you buy time, you're not cheating the game. You're changing it. What if you don't have much to spend? Start microscopic. Buy 10 minutes. Say no to one meeting. Get your lunch delivered on the day you're most slammed. Trade a streaming subscription for a monthly house clean that gives you a free Saturday. These are not grand gestures. They're small doors to a bigger life. And once you feel the lift of even a little breathing room, it gets easier to ask the next question. What would I do with an extra hour every week? Let that answer guide where your money goes. Not to the loudest ad, to the quietest need. Because the secret isn't that money buys happiness. The secret is that money buys time. And time, chosen, protected, and spent on what matters, is where happiness has room to land. That's the shift that changes how you see the world. Lean in. There's a quiet deal happening around you, and your name's on a contract you never signed. Here's the secret most people won't say out loud. They're not looking for companions. They're looking for tools. A ride to the airport, a listening ear at 2 a.m, a quick fix for a mess they made last week, a buffer so they don't feel alone, a ladder to climb, a mirror to admire themselves, a screen to project their story. And if you felt strangely tired after being with certain people, if you leave conversations with a knot in your stomach, that's your body whispering, something's off. You feel it when someone only texts when they want something, never when you might need them. You feel it when compliments show up right before the request. You feel it when your boundaries get framed as being difficult, or not being a team player, or not being the same fun you. Notice the choreography. First comes the warm-up, then the ask, then the guilt, if you hesitate. So here's a question to sit with. Would they still want you if you stopped being useful? Let that breathe for a moment. Look at your calendar like it's a map of your life. Which names pull you forward and which names drain you dry? Look at your messages. Who checks on you just to see how your heart is? Who only shows up when there's a fire and you're the nearest hose? Patterns are louder than promises. Patterns tell the truth. But before we point outward, there's a mirror we have to face. We do this too. Sometimes, without meaning to, we use people to soothe our anxiety, to fill the silence, to fix our day. It's human to need. It becomes harmful when need is the only reason you knock on their door. If you want to stop being treated like a tool, stop treating others like a utility. Choose a companion mindset. That means presence when there's nothing to gain. That means listening without steering. That means valuing people for who they are, not just for what they can do. How do you tell the difference between a companion and a user? Listen to what happens when you say no. A user hears no as a threat to their control. They push, they poke, they shame. A companion hears no as data. They ask, "Are you okay?" They look for a different path, or they wait, or they simply accept it because they see you, not just your function. Here's a small tool you can use, simple words that change everything. When the ask comes, instead of saying yes by default, say, "What exactly do you need and by when?" Vague requests hide oversized expectations. Clarity is a bright light. The people who value you won't be offended by the light. The ones who use you will squint and turn away. Another move, offer a real boundary plus a real option. I can't do that, but I can do this. If kindness is fuel, boundaries are the brakes. Without brakes, even kindness crashes. Repeat that to yourself when guilt tries to take the wheel. And please hear this. Your worth isn't measured in favors fulfilled or fires put out. You are not a ladder people step on to reach their next platform. You are not an emotional ATM. You're a person. Your time is a life. Your yes is holy. When you give it on purpose. Here's a quick self-check that's uncomfortable and honest. If you had nothing to offer, no money, no status, no connections, no skills, who would still sit across from you with warm eyes? Who would still call you with good news, not just bad news? Who would ask about your dreams and wait for the full answer? Those are your people. Protect that circle. Water it. Be that person right back. And for the names that don't survive that test, you don't have to slam the door. You can lower the volume. You can stop volunteering for pain. You can let a slow fade replace a sudden exit. Not every ending needs a headline. Sometimes distance is the boundary that finally teaches respect. One more truth. You will always be used by something, an agenda, a habit, a story you tell yourself. So choose the mission that honors you. Be used by your values. Be used by your craft. Be used by love. If you're going to pour out, pour into soil that gives life back. So ask yourself, right now, who am I when I'm not being useful? Whose presence makes me feel human, not just helpful? What part of me is afraid to say no? Let your answers be awkward. Let them be messy. Then act on them with small courage. Say no when you mean no. Say yes when it's aligned. Ask for what you need without apologizing. Watch who adapts and watch who leaves. That's your clarity. The secret's out. People will try to use you, some without thinking, some with intent. Your job isn't to fix them. Your job is to know your value, set your terms, and choose your companions. Your time is a currency. Spend it where you're seen, not just spent. And when you forget, when old habits pull you back into the toolbox, pause, breathe, and remember, your life is not a service. It's a story. Write it with people who read you for you. There's a moment when a smile freezes and you feel it. The hairline crack in the bridge between you and someone you swore was rock solid. You don't hear a boom. You hear a soft shift, a glance that slides away, a story that doesn't quite match, and your gut whispers, "Hey, something's off." Here's the secret most people won't say out loud. Trust doesn't fail like a light switch. It fails like a slow leak. Not if, but when. That's not cynicism. It's physics. Any bridge, no matter how strong, takes stress with every step. Over time, if nobody checks the bolts loosen. We love calling people unshakable. It makes us feel safe, but that label has a hidden cost. When we say, "they'd never," we stop paying attention. We stop inspecting the beams. And then one day, we're shocked to find rust that's been there for years. The break rarely starts with betrayal. It starts with small skips, a promise delayed, a truth trimmed to avoid discomfort, a tiny secret told to protect you. Those quiet, well-meaning cuts add up. Trust is a living thing. It needs oxygen. Deception is a plastic bag pulled gently over its face. So what do you do when you feel that first hairline crack? First, name it. Not to accuse, just to see. You can say, something feels different, and leave space. Because if you don't name it, your brain will. It'll write a movie with no facts and award it Best Picture for anxiety. Naming brings air. Air brings clarity. Here's the twist. The moment you notice the crack, you're not only witnessing their behavior, you're meeting your own. Do you rush to fix? Do you double down on hope? Do you become the detective, or do you shut the case before the evidence arrives? Ask yourself gently and give it a beat. Can I hold the discomfort without sprinting to conclusion? Can I ask a direct question without sharpening it into a blade? Can I wait for a real answer, even if it's messy? Trust doesn't break only because people are flawed. It also breaks because we treat trust like a one-time gift instead of an ongoing agreement. It's not a trophy, it's a subscription. It renews through small acts. Proof beats promise, and repetition beats intensity. Watch the repair attempts. That's where the truth lives. A sincere repair has a feel to it. It's specific, not vague. It says, I did this, here's why I think it happened, here's what I'll do differently, and here's how you'll know. A weak repair asks for instant forgiveness and offers no map. It says, I said sorry, can we move on? Without moving. You don't need perfection, you need pattern. Look for the slope, not the snapshot. Is the person getting more precise with their words? Are they honouring small agreements without being policed? Does the time between mistake and repair shrink? If the slope tilts toward care, the bridge can hold. If you're stuck in déjà vu, beware. Repeated injury with polished apologies is still injury. And here's another secret people miss. Trust isn't one giant dial. It's a panel of switches. You might trust someone with your feelings, but not with your calendar. You might trust their intentions, but not their follow-through. That's not hypocrisy. That's wisdom. Calibrate trust by context. It's kinder to be specific than to be blindly loyal. If you need anchors, try this. Clarity, evidence, and time. Clarity means you state the standard out loud. When you're running late, I need a heads up. Evidence means you watch actions more than explanations. Time means you check for consistency over a real stretch, not one perfect week after a meltdown. If the person resists clarity, if they argue with evidence, if they demand time be skipped, that's data too. Boundaries don't punish. They protect the conditions where trust can grow. A boundary says, I'll meet you here. It's a line you hold so connection can breathe. When you hold it, you're not being cold. You're making the space safe for both of you. The most important boundary is with yourself. Promise yourself you'll leave the table when the cost becomes your self-respect. Promise yourself you'll stay when growth is happening, even if it's slow. Self-trust is the root. Without it, every other trust feels like a ride without a seatbelt. If the bridge collapses, it hurts. Your chest gets heavy. Memory plays highlights of every good thing and asks why it wasn't enough. Here's what helps. Don't torch the remains to keep warm. Say the simple truth. I cared. It failed. Then step away with clean hands. A burned bridge leaves ash in your lungs. A walked-away bridge lets you breathe again. If the bridge holds, and many do, don't take it for granted. Keep checking the bolts together. Make small, boring deposits. Show up when you say you will. Tell the hard truth kindly before it grows teeth. Repair fast and show your work. No grand gestures can replace daily steadiness. It's those unglamorous steps that turn soft promises into a sturdy road. Want a simple tell? Trust feels quiet. You don't keep score when you trust. You don't rehearse speeches in the shower. You stop checking your phone for proof that you're safe. Safety is a body feeling. When trust is real, your shoulders drop. One last thing about the people you thought were unshakable. They aren't stone. They're human. They get tired. They carry their own storms. The secret isn't finding the person who never cracks. The secret is becoming the person who listens for the creak, speaks to it and chooses with clear eyes. That's courage. That's care. That's how you keep a bridge alive. So when you feel that soft shift, that tiny click in your chest, don't ignore it and don't explode it. Walk to it. Look at it. Ask for repair. Offer repair. Trust will break, yes. But with clarity, evidence, and time, it can bend, heal, and sometimes become stronger than before. And if it can't, you'll know when to let go and trust yourself to cross a different bridge. A soft couch can teach a hard lesson, not right away, not with a warning label. It whispers, "Stay a little longer, you've earned it." And that whisper slowly turns into a lullaby that puts your courage to sleep. Here's the secret. You only notice when life finally punches you in the gut. Comfort doesn't just relax you, it reshapes you. It sands down your edges until the smallest hill feels like a mountain and the lightest breeze feels like a storm. Picture a normal morning. Alarm goes off. You hit snooze once, then again. It's cold outside, so the jog becomes a promise to start Monday. At work, there's a project that scares you a little, so you say, maybe next quarter. You order the same lunch, take the elevator 2 floors, scroll a little after, then a lot after. None of these choices are evil. They're soft. And softness stacked high becomes weight. Then something real hits. A breakup, a job cut, a bill you didn't expect, or just one of those weeks when everything is heavy and nothing seems to move. Suddenly, the person you needed to be, the one with grit and a steady hand, isn't home. You didn't lose them. You let them go to sleep. Here's what's going on under the hood. Psychologically, your brain adapts to repeated ease. It's called habituation. The more you bathe in easy, the more your baseline shifts toward it. Stress feels sharper. Discomfort feels bigger. Avoidance becomes your reflex. So what do? You build a new reflex. You introduce small, controlled discomforts on purpose. Micro hardships that teach your nervous system, we can handle this. Take the stairs when you want the lift. Speak up once in the meeting when your instinct is to stay quiet. Take a brisk walk in the cold and feel the bite on your skin. Put your phone in another room for the first 20 minutes after you wake. Ask for feedback before you feel ready. And here's the twist. It's not punishment. It's practice. You're telling your mind and body, we face things. There's a difference between true rest and comfort addiction. Rest is fuel. It rebuilds the muscles you tear. It resets attention, renews creativity, and makes you stronger for the next rep. But rest only works when it follows effort. Perpetual cushion weakens the frame. Rest is part of the system, a cycle, not the default state. Notice how the smallest choices set the tone for the biggest moments. When you choose a little friction now, you carry less friction later. When you say, I'll do the hard thing first, you don't just finish a task. You reinforce an identity. Not, I hope I can, but I do hard things. Not, I'll try when it's perfect, but I'll start while it's imperfect, and I'll learn fast. Will it sting? Yes. Will you want to stop? Also, yes. That sting is not a warning. It's a wake-up. It's the heat of a forge, not the chill of a freezer. The forge shapes you. The freezer numbs you. Try one deliberate discomfort today. One? A short cold shower, a tougher conversation you've delayed, a workout you stop avoiding. 5 quiet minutes with no screens and your thoughts, even if they're messy. Let it feel awkward. Let it feel new. That's your edge getting sharper. Because life will ask for strength sooner or later, and strength is not a switch you flip when the storm arrives. Strength is a habit you rehearse while the sky is still clear. Comfort has a place. Keep it where it belongs. Use it to recover, not to disappear. And when the wind picks up, as it always does, you'll feel it on your face. Square your shoulders and think, I know this feeling. I've trained for it. That's the quiet power that comfort can't give you. That's the part of you that wakes back up. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. There's a stranger living behind your eyes, wearing your face, speaking in your voice, and you trust them with everything. Wild thought, right? Here's the quiet truth most people never touch. You think you know yourself. You think your reasons are solid, your tastes are yours, your choices come from a clear, steady place. But underneath the surface, there's a maze of habits, memories, and half-remembered stories steering the wheel. You're not always the pilot. Sometimes you're the narrator who shows up after the fact and explains the crash like it was all part of the plan. Ever say you did something because it was the right time? Then realize later it was just the easiest thing? That's the mind doing PR, smoothing out the messy bits so they feel clean and intentional. It's not evil. It's efficient, but it keeps you from seeing what's actually driving you. Here's the trap. You're standing in front of a mirror that fogs up the moment you get close. You press your face to the glass, you wipe, you squint, and for a second you think you see yourself. Then the steam rolls back in. The metaphor's simple. The fog is bias, fear, and the urge to be consistent. The mirror is your internal story. You want the reflection to be flattering, so your mind edits. It trims the edges. It airbrushes the doubts. Why do you really like who you like? Why do you bristle when someone uses that tone? Why does that one song make your chest tighten, even though you never had a memory tied to it? Your mind has its reasons, but it doesn't always send them upstairs. It sends you a postcard that says, felt right. And when someone close to you says, you weren't yourself back there, you argue, of course I was. Who else would I be? But maybe their angle sees more than your angle. Maybe you're like a house with rooms you never walk into. The lights are off in there. You think empty means nothing's inside. It just means you haven't looked yet. So how do you crack this? Start smaller than you think. Don't wait for a grand revelation. Ask yourself one unfair question each day and sit with the first answer that makes you uncomfortable. What am I avoiding? Who am I trying to impress? What am I secretly afraid will happen if I change this? Unfair questions are powerful because they cut through the polite story. They pry. Then invite someone you trust to describe you in 3 words and promise you won't defend yourself. Don't correct them. Don't explain. Just listen. Those 3 words are a mirror from another angle, and that angle catches shadows yours misses. Pay attention to your patterns like you'd watch a stranger. What do you do on autopilot? When do you say yes before your body can object? When do you get loud? When do you get smaller? Notice the moment right after you act, when you start writing the explanation. That's the moment to pause. Let silence settle. Ask, is that true? Or just tidy? Memory won't save you here. Memory is a great storyteller and a terrible archivist. It rearranges the furniture to make the room feel right. If you want truth, look at behavior, not just stories. Keep a tiny log, just a few lines each day. Not what you meant to do, what you actually did. You'll see yourself in the footprints, not the plans. And here's the twist. You don't have to fear the stranger behind your eyes. They're not out to ruin you. They're just busy keeping you alive without asking for permission. But if you never meet them, if you never walk into those dark rooms, you'll keep mistaking the PR brochure for the map. The deeper secret is this. You're not a single, solid thing. You're a conversation. You're a shifting chorus of past selves, future hopes, habits and instincts, negotiating in real time. That's not a flaw. That's your power. It means you can renegotiate. So loosen your grip on the image you've been defending. It's not your identity. It's a snapshot. Let it soften. Let it change. When you feel that reflex to explain, to justify, to make yourself look consistent, breathe. Leave one sentence unfinished. Let the silence say, "I'm still looking." Are you brave enough to meet the parts you've kept in the dark? Good. Turn on one light, then another. Not all at once. One quiet truth at a time. And as the fog thins, you'll notice something strange and beautiful. The stranger behind your eyes starts to look familiar. Not because they become simple, but because you accept that you're not a statue. You're a living story. And every day, you get to write it a little more honestly. That's the secret. You don't know yourself as well as you think. And that's not a curse. That's the doorway. Step through. Imagine a door that opens by itself, then clicks shut the second you step through. And now, you're the one holding the key. That's freedom. It looks like an open field, but the ground tax is hidden under the grass. Every kind of freedom comes with a cost, and the invoice shows up whether you're ready or not. You want time freedom. Sounds amazing, right? Sleep when you want, work when you want, wander when you want. But here's the price nobody advertises. You'll need iron boundaries. You'll have to say no a lot. No to distractions, no to other people's urgency, no to the quick favour that steals your afternoon. Time freedom doesn't magically give you discipline. It demands it. If you don't pay with discipline, you'll pay with drift. And drift is expensive. You want financial freedom. You imagine breathing room, choices, ease, but money has maintenance. You'll spend time learning, watching, deciding, worrying. You'll deal with people who see your success and pull on it, people who don't, and your own habits that want to sabotage you. The cost might be privacy, it might be vigilance, it might be the patience to delay indulgence for something bigger. Wealth doesn't remove anxiety, it trades one kind for another. If you don't pay with patience and a plan, you'll pay with chaos. You want location freedom. A suitcase, a laptop, a new city every few months. The photos are pretty. The cost is invisible. Roots take time. Community takes repetition. When you move constantly, you pay in shallow ties. You pay in holidays spent with strangers or a screen. You pay in the quiet moments when you wish someone could meet you for coffee without a calendar and a plane ticket. You can buy the ticket. You can't buy history. You want freedom of speech. To say the truth as you see it, sharp, clear, no filter. The cost? You'll be misunderstood, sometimes on purpose. Your words will be quoted without context, twisted, memed, and sent back to you with a laugh track. If you won't pay with courage, you'll pay with self-betrayal. And that's the heaviest price of all. You want relational freedom. No commitments, no check-ins, no compromises. For a season, that's oxygen. But loneliness charges interest. When the night gets long, you'll feel the bill on your chest. On the other side, maybe you want the freedom of a deep partnership, the solid ground of someone who knows you. There's a cost there too. You'll pay with compromise, with vulnerability, with the humility to be wrong and to repair. Love is not free. It's the best deal you'll ever make, but it's still a deal. You want creative freedom. No boss, no brief, just you and the blank page. Guess what waits on that blank page? Doubt. The cost of creative freedom is finishing without external permission, standing by your taste when no one else believes yet, and shipping work that might flop in public. If you don't pay with courage and consistency, you'll pay with resentment toward the people who never stopped you. You want the freedom to reinvent yourself, to leave the hometown, the job, the reputation. Beautiful, but reinvention charges you your old identity. You'll pay by being a beginner again, by explaining yourself, by losing the comfort of being known. The people who loved the old version may not love the new one. If you don't pay with grief and grace, you'll pay with a lifetime of half versions. So here's the secret most people avoid. The bill always arrives. The only choice you have is how and when to pay. Do you pay up front with discipline, patience, and responsibility, the boring coins that buy you real, quiet power? Or do you pay later with regret, with dependence, with a life where someone else calls the shots? Ask yourself, softly, right now, what freedom do you actually want? Not the one that looks good on a vision board, the one your chest gets warm thinking about. Then ask, what's the cost? Not the fantasy cost, the real one, the daily one, the one that asks for early mornings or honest conversations or courage in the moment you'd rather run. And here's the third question that cuts deep. Who else pays? Because your choices send out a ripple. Time freedom might ask your family for patience. Financial freedom might ask your friends to accept different priorities. Creative freedom might ask your audience to wait through rough drafts while you find the voice that's truly yours. That ripple is part of the price. Own it. This isn't punishment. It's physics. Think of freedom like a muscle. You're not handed strength. You're handed a weight. You pay with reps, and the repayment plan is daily. But here's the twist. Once you accept that every freedom has a cost, you stop hunting for the perfect, painless option, and you start choosing the meaningful one. So choose your chains. Choose the ones that feel like instruments, not cages. Choose the boundaries that protect your focus, the habits that guard your peace, the standards that honor your values. When the bill comes, smile. You knew it was coming. You set the budget. You decided what was worth it. Because freedom isn't free, and it isn't once. It's rented, day by day, and the rent is paid in attention, in responsibility, in courage. Pay it gladly, then walk through the door, turn the key behind you, and keep going. Picture your name written on a whiteboard. Now imagine a hand wiping it clean in one slow swipe, and everything else keeps moving. The meetings go on. The deadlines keep marching. The chat pings don't even flinch. That sting you feel right now, that's the truth most people tiptoe around. You're replaceable. At work, they call it coverage, succession, backfill. Friendly words for a simple idea. The machine keeps turning. If you stopped showing up tomorrow, someone would open your files, skim your notes, and start making decisions. Some choices would be worse, some might even be better, but the wheel would spin. That isn't a judgment of your worth. It's the architecture of systems. Systems are built so any one person can step away and the whole thing doesn't collapse. The safety you think comes from being needed by a job is an illusion the system designed to keep you in place. And here's the twist. The same thing shows up in roles you play outside work. The dependable friend who always drives, the sibling who fixes every mess. The person in the group, chat everyone tags when something breaks. If you step back, someone else, sooner or later, steps in. Maybe a little clumsily at first, but they do. Roles are hats, not skin. We wear them, then pass them on. Now, the part that's hardest to say out loud. Relationships. You're not the only person someone could love. You're not the only person who can make them laugh, or feel seen, or feel safe. People move. They change. Circumstances shift. The story in your head that says, "I am the only one for them," feels romantic, but it's more about control than love. Love is a choice, repeated, not a lock. Take a breath. This sounds harsh, but it's not meant to crush you. It's meant to free you. Because once you accept you're replaceable to others, you stop bargaining for your worth with your time, your health, or your soul. You stop clinging. You start choosing. Ask yourself a dangerous question. If you vanished from your job today, what would break forever? Not for a week, forever. If the honest answer is nothing, then your value lives inside you, not inside a badge or a title, which means you can move, you can negotiate, you can leave, you can build something where your value compounds instead of gets drained. Here's where it gets interesting. You're replaceable in the world's systems, but you're irreplaceable at being you. No one else has your pattern of scars and skills, your taste, your timing, your sense of humour, your weird mix of obsessions. The world can plug anyone into a role, but no one can replicate your way of seeing. That uniqueness is only power if you express it, though. If it stays locked in your head, it's vapour. Put it in work that lives beyond your presence. Write it, film it, teach it, code it, design it, build it, record it. Artifacts make you harder to ignore and harder to erase. Here's another question. If the people you love replaced you tomorrow, what part of you would they miss that can't be swapped? Think less about grand gestures and more about steady traits. Your calm under pressure. Your curiosity that turns awkward silence into connection. Your standard for honesty that doesn't buckle. Those qualities are a lifestyle, not a performance. You can double down on them. You can become the person who leaves a shape in the room when you're gone. There's a trap here, and it's subtle. When you hear "be irreplaceable," you might try to hoard knowledge, to become the bottleneck, to make everything depend on you. That's fear talking. The stronger play is the opposite. Document what you know. Teach people around you. Empower them. Make yourself safe to lose. And then do work so resonant, so generous, so unmistakably you that people still choose you. Not because they have to, because they want to. This is how you turn the secret into leverage. You accept replaceability, then design your life around choice. You choose where your attention goes. You choose which rooms deserve your energy. You choose standards, not scraps. You build skills that travel. You nurture relationships where appreciation is spoken, not implied. You give without keeping a silent score. And you walk away when staying requires self-erasure. There's one more little shock. The moment you stop clinging, you become more attractive to the right places and people. Desperation smells. Self-respect sings. When you're willing to leave, you negotiate better. When you're not trying to be the only one, you become the one that stands out anyway. Clarity has a way of making you luminous. So yes, you're replaceable in jobs. You're replaceable in roles. You're replaceable even in relationships. That's the scary half. The other half is the invitation. You can make your presence a gift, not a demand. You can make your work a signature, not a shadow. You can make your love a choice, not a cage. If your name gets wiped off the board one day, and one day it will, what will still echo? Decide that now. Build it now. Live like your worth is a fountain inside you, not a label on you. Let the world be the world, with its swapping and shuffling. Be the person who leaves a trail of something that can't be replaced. Your character, your craft, your courage. That's the secret hiding in plain sight. And once you see it, you don't unsee it. You just start living braver. Ever notice how fear doesn't knock first? It just slips in and rearranges the furniture in your mind. Here's the secret. People rarely admit out loud. Fear doesn't vanish. When you grow, when you succeed, or when you finally get what you wanted, it just changes costumes. The monster under the bed becomes the unread email with your name on it. The shadow in the hallway grows up into that uncertain test result. The big presentation, the 3 dots that appear and disappear on a message you wish would just say what it needs to say. You think you'll outrun it with more money, more status, more control, but fear is endurance itself. It doesn't want to leave because it thinks it's keeping you alive. It's ancient, loyal, and very loud. And yes, it can be wrong a lot of the time, but it's still yours. So what do you do when it shows up? Start by recognizing its new shape. Maybe it used to look like darkness. Now it looks like the future. Maybe it used to sound like the creak of floorboards. Now it sounds like your own inner critic saying, "What if I'm not enough?" Name it out loud if you can. Give it a simple label. Not drama, not poetry. Just nervous about failing, scared of being judged, worried I'll be abandoned. When you name it, you pull it from the shadows and put it in the light. Shadows grow when you stare at them from far away. Up close, they shrink. Ask it one kind question. What are you trying to protect? Fear isn't a villain. It's a bodyguard that never got the memo that you're safe in this room. It learned its trade in an older chapter of your story, under harsher light. It's scanning for danger that isn't always there, setting off alarms, because that's its job. And here's the twist. You don't have to fire your fear. You just can't let it drive. Let it ride shotgun. Let it take notes. Let it look out the window and point at potholes. But the steering wheel, that belongs to your values. Your values know where you're going. Fear just knows where you might crash. Picture fear like a smoke alarm. If it doesn't go off, you're in trouble. If it goes off for burnt toast, you don't evacuate the neighborhood. You crack a window. You wave a towel. You turn the heat down. You don't burn your house down to make the noise stop. Translate the alarm into action. What action? Small and immediate. Breathe in, slow, count to 3. Breathe out a little longer, then ask, what's the tiniest next right move that proves I'm safe or moving toward what matters? Send the email, draft the first sentence, practice the opening line. Put your shoes by the door so the morning version of you has one less reason to hide. Tiny actions teach your nervous system a new story, one where you act even while afraid. Does fear vanish after that? No. It changes shape again. It gets clever. It tries, what if they laugh at you? Then, what if they love you and expect more? Then, what if you waste your shot? That's what it does. It morphs. It keeps you alert. It keeps you honest. It keeps you human. The trick is to get good at recognizing its voice. It speaks in catastrophes and absolutes. Always, never, everyone, no one. Your values speak quieter. They use words like learn, try, build, choose. Fear pushes you to the edge and shouts jump or run. Values invite you to step forward, just one step and then another. Think about a time you felt brave, not fearless, brave. There's a difference. Fearless is numb. Brave is trembling and moving anyway. Brave is the tremor in your hands while you dial the number, the quiver in your voice while you tell the truth, the shake in your knees while you say yes. Brave means fear came with you, and you went anyway. So here's a simple practice you can bring with you when fear shows up wearing a new mask. Say, I see you. Thanks for trying to keep me safe. Here's your job today. Help me notice risks, but I'll decide. Then choose one small behavior that aligns with who you want to be. Not who you think you should be to quiet fear, but who you actually are when you're proud of yourself. Repeat that behavior. Let repetition build trust inside your own body. Will fear stop changing shape? It won't. And that's okay, because you're changing too. You're learning to hear the alarm without worshipping it. You're learning to let caution be useful without letting it become a cage. You're learning that the goal isn't to feel safe before you move. The goal is to move in ways that create safety over time. You don't need to slay fear to live well. You need to give it better instructions. Seatbelt, not steering wheel. Advisor, not author. Alarm, not architect. That's the quiet secret sitting beneath so much noise. Fear never leaves. It evolves. And when you meet it with clarity, compassion, and action, so do you. So when it whispers again, and it will, you'll know what to do. You'll breathe, you'll listen, you'll thank it, you'll choose, and you'll move forward, not because fear disappeared, but because courage got louder. Think of the long hallway outside a hospital room. The fluorescent light is a little too bright, the air a little too cold, and there's a chair that never gets comfortable. People might be nearby, nurses, relatives, a stranger with a coffee, but when your name is called, you stand up by yourself. That step is yours. It always has been. Or the night before a decision that could tilt your whole life. You're staring at the ceiling, watching the slow sweep of the fan. Your phone glows with old conversations, but none of them can climb inside your head. Make the choice, carry the weight. That moment, this tiny island of silence, is the place where you meet yourself. Scary? Of course it is. Being alone brushes straight against the fear that you might not be enough. But here's the twist. Solitude isn't a punishment. It's a forge. A forge is the hot place where metal becomes a blade, meaning being alone is where your thoughts and values heat up and take shape. It's a mirror too. A mirror shows you exactly what's there, meaning it reflects your true face when no one else is prompting you. And it's a compass. A compass points north, meaning it helps you choose your direction when every voice is loud except your own. So how do you stand in that quiet without running? Start small. Practice being with yourself like you'd train a muscle. Take a short walk without headphones. Let the silence prick a little, then breathe into it. Eat one meal by yourself. No scrolling, just you and the taste of what's in front of you. Before you sleep, sit for 1 minute, eyes open, and ask, what am I avoiding? Say it out loud. Give the fear a name so it stops being smoke and turns into something you can hold. Create a ritual for the lonely seconds before the hard thing. Touch your wrist and say, here, I'm here. 3 words, simple. Or write a tiny promise on a scrap of paper. 3 lines, no poetry, just truth. I will choose honesty. I will act with courage. I will be kind to myself. Keep it in your pocket. It's not magic. It's a rope in the dark. Build a memory bank of times you survived the quiet. The exam, where your mind went blank, but your breath brought it back. The job interview, where your hands shook and then steadied. The breakup that felt like a cliff, and you didn't fall forever. You found ground. Tell yourself those stories when the hum gets loud. They're proof. And if you're thinking, but I don't want to do life by myself, good, you're not supposed to. Connection matters. Your tribe matters. Call them after, sit with them, laugh with them, cry with them. Let people carry you across the long stretches. Just don't expect them to walk that last inch inside a choice, a grief, a leap. That inch is the doorway to who you are. Nobody else can fit through. What if alone isn't empty? What if alone is clear? What if alone is where you can hear your own voice, whisper an answer you already knew? Because here's the real secret. The moments that terrify you, the hospital chair, the midnight ceiling, the quiet car ride before you turn in the resignation, those aren't the enemy. They're invitations to listen, to decide, to step, to claim your worth without witnesses, to practice courage when no one's clapping. The world will keep buzzing. People will come and go. Plans will flip. And you'll still have that hum, that pulse, that small, stubborn life inside your ribs. When the room goes quiet and the crowd fades and it's just you, remember, this isn't the end of something. It's the beginning. The you without noise is the one steering the ship. So when the door closes and you feel the air change, don't rush to fill it. Take one breath, slow, deep, honest. Put your feet on the ground, touch your wrist and say, "Here, I'm here." Then step forward, not because someone told you to, but because you chose to. That choice is the secret. That choice is the point. And it's yours. Always yours. The first time someone laughs at your joke because they have to, something changes. It's small, almost kind. You get a tiny rush, a warm little hum in your chest, and that's the door. Not a big iron gate swinging open with thunder, but a soft latch clicking under your fingertips. That's how power begins. Here's the secret most people miss. Power doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It whispers. It says, "You're the exception. You're different. You're responsible." And you nod because it feels true. You're thoughtful. You're careful. You'll use it for good. Right? Right until the first shortcut saves time. Until the first rule bends for a noble cause. Until the first person who annoys you gets ignored and nothing bad happens. In that silence, something inside you tilts, just a few degrees. You don't notice it yet, but everything you see now passes through that tilt. And slowly, what used to look flat and fair starts to slope your way. Does power always corrupt? It tries, every single time. Not because you're bad, because you're human. Give a person control over outcomes and the brain does math without telling you. Reward, punishment, attention, status. Those currents pull on your judgment like tides. You'll call it efficiency. You'll call it standards. You'll call it strategy. And you'll believe yourself. Think about everyday power. A parent who can end the debate with one word. A manager who can shape someone's day with a calendar invite. The friend who runs the group chat and decides who's in. The creator who can send a wave of attention with a single post. None of these people are villains. Yet the same pattern lies in wait. The moment your choice matters to others, a subtle fog rolls in. You stop seeing the full picture because the part that helps you gets brighter, louder, closer. Here's how the fog works. First, distance. Power raises you just a little higher, and from up there, the details blur. You forget how heavy the work feels 2 steps down. Second, stories. Power hands you a pen. You write a version where your move makes sense, and you read it enough times that it becomes fact. Third, insulation. Power buys you quiet. Fewer people argue. Fewer people warn. The feedback that stung, it just stops arriving. That quiet feels like peace. It's not. It's the cushion that catches the first fall of your better instincts. Maybe you've felt it already. You catch yourself interrupting because your idea feels urgent. You roll your eyes at a complaint because you've heard it before. You skip the apology because it might show weakness. You tell yourself you're moving fast. You tell yourself you're protecting the team. And slowly, you stop hearing the knock at the door. Power's favourite lie is simple. You earned it, so you deserve more of it. More patience, more benefit of the doubt, more leeway, more perks. Once you buy that lie, the slope gets slick. If you deserve more, then others deserve less. And you won't say that out loud, but your choices will. Want to see how deep it goes? Look at the power of attention. How many likes did you get? How many views? When the crowd approves, your nervous system lights up. That is power. And when you can summon it on demand, you start to steer toward whatever feeds it. Maybe you amplify the take that riles people up. Maybe you skip the nuance because clarity wins. Maybe you let a cheap shot slide because it keeps your tribe cheering. Tell yourself it's for impact. Tell yourself it's for awareness. There's that tilt again, just a few degrees. So what do you do if power always corrupts? You don't pretend you're immune. You build guardrails while you still want them. Not later, now. You make it harder to slip by adding friction. You keep the door open to people who can say no and mean it. You ask, before the decision, what would make me wrong here? You ask, after the decision, who paid the cost? You rotate the keys when you can. You limit secrets. You leave a paper trail you'd be comfortable reading out loud. You let others own pieces so you can't swallow the whole thing. And you watch for the early signs. The jokes that punch down. The meetings that suddenly feel quieter. The way you start justifying, explaining, narrating your way toward a result you wanted all along. Notice when you stop asking questions you don't know how to answer. Notice when you only call on people who agree with you. That's not confidence. That's the fog thickening. There's a brutal truth here. The parts of you that hunger for power are not strangers. They're the same parts that want safety, recognition, control. Those desires aren't evil. They're human. And that's why power is so dangerous. It hijacks your best stories and drives them off a cliff with a smile. It takes your wish to protect your people and turns it into gatekeeping. It takes your desire to lead and reshapes it into dominance. It takes your love for excellence and mutates it into cruelty, masked as standards. So let's make this practical. Choose someone in your life who can stop you. Give them authority to tell you when you're off. Ask smaller voices first, then louder ones. Explain your choices to someone who doesn't benefit. When you receive a perk, pay a price somewhere else. Time, transparency, service. If you can't do that, it owns you more than you own it. And once in a while, step out of the high chair, sit where the floor is sticky, stand in the line, carry the bag. Not because it's cute, but because the view down there will clean your lens. Will that save you completely? No. Power will keep tempting you. It will keep whispering. It will keep inventing new ways to feel normal. But every guardrail you build buys you a moment to choose. Every honest friend buys you another. Every habit of humility buys you a heartbeat where the fog thins and you can see the slope before you slide. Here's the part we rarely admit. It's not just that power corrupts. Power isolates, then it normalizes. Then it teaches you to prefer the isolation. The more you get, the fewer people can understand you, the fewer can stand up to you, and the fewer you'll let in. That's the engine. That's the trap. And that's why it corrodes anyone, no matter how noble the start. You don't beat power with purity. You beat it with structure. You beat it with people who laugh at your jokes only when they're actually funny. You beat it by being suspicious of your own halo. You beat it by remembering that the moment it feels effortless, that's when it's most dangerous. If you hold power now, even a little, hear this as a quiet alarm. You're not the exception. I'm not the exception. The switch flips for all of us, but we can wire in safeguards. We can invite friction. We can choose to be interrupted, corrected, slowed down. And that choice, made again and again, keeps the tilt from becoming a slide. Power always corrupts. That's the secret. And the counter-secret is courage, shared light, and small daily acts that keep you human. Keep those close. Keep them closer than your comfort, your image, your need to be right. Because when the laugh comes because someone had to, that's when you know it's time to step down a rung and find your footing again. There's a voice living upstairs that sounds exactly like you, and it lies with a straight face. It tells stories. Calm, confident stories. It says, you're behind, you're not enough. Everyone else has it figured out, and because the voice uses your tone, your memories, your vocabulary, you nod along like it's a trusted friend. But here's the secret. Your mind doesn't want you to hear. It's a brilliant storyteller, not a perfect truth teller. Think about the last time you were sure someone was mad at you, only to find out they were just tired. Your mind connected dots, painted a picture, and sold it as fact. That's what it does all day. It skims, it fills gaps. It chooses a narrative that feels safe or familiar. Familiar doesn't mean true. It just means comfortable. Your mind loves shortcuts. It loves the first explanation that fits. It loves the loudest memory in the room. If you once touched a hot stove, the voice will whisper that all stoves are dangerous. If you stumbled while speaking, the voice will insist you always stumble. It will hold up a single snapshot like it's the whole album. And here's the wild part. The voice wants to protect you. Those lies? Many are padded with good intentions. Avoid embarrassment, avoid risk, avoid loss. But protection becomes prison when the locks are invisible. The story, I'm not ready, can keep you safe from failure and safe from your life. Ever notice how you search for proof you're right? That's the voice seeking comfort. It will scroll past quiet evidence that you're okay and stop on the one sharp comment that stings. It will bookmark criticism and blur compliments. It's not cruel, it's economical. Fear is heavy, so your mind carries it like a priority package. Courage is lighter, so it gets left behind. And then there's the mirror trick. The voice leans in close and says, everyone's looking at you. Every flaw is glowing. You hear a laugh across the room and assume it's aimed like an arrow. That's the spotlight illusion. Your mind puts you center stage because you're the main character in your head. But in their heads, they're the main character. Your scene is a background moment in someone else's story. So what do you do with a voice that lies and calls it love? You slow it down. When the voice shouts, they don't like me, pause and ask, what would I believe if I were calm? Give your body a second to settle. Feel your feet. Lower your shoulders. Then check the evidence, not the echo. Did they say something? Or am I guessing between the lines? When the voice says, always or never, challenge it. Always? Never? Those words are red flags that a story is trying to sound bigger than it is. Shrink it down to the size of the moment. Maybe it's not always. Maybe it's just today. When the voice says, you blew it, ask, compared to what? Compared to a flawless myth nobody actually lives? Or compared to your last attempt, which was smaller and quieter? Growth rarely looks tidy up close. It looks like wobbling. It looks like being brave and a little clumsy at the same time. When the voice says, quit now, remember the sunk cost trap. Your mind hates wasting effort. It would rather guard a bad choice than admit the story is changing. But you're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to edit. That's not failure. That's authorship. Here's a simple move that changes everything. Treat your mind like a narrator, not a dictator. A narrator can be questioned. You can say, "Thanks for the story. And here's my fact check." You can say, "I hear you, and I'm going to look outside the window anyway." That tiny gap between the voice and your choice is freedom. Try this tonight. Think of one belief that makes you smaller. Hold it like an object in your hand. Turn it over. Where did you learn it? Who taught your mind to say it that way? What else could be true? Give each question space. Let silence answer before your habits rush in. And here's the twist. Your mind lies in both directions. It will tell you you're worthless, and it will tell you you're invincible. It will say, "Don't bother trying," and it will whisper, "You can fix everything alone." Both are false. You're not worthless, and you're not a superhero. You're human, which is so much better. You can learn. You can ask. You can fall and repair. You can get help without losing your worth. Notice the tone your mind uses. Does it sound harsh, urgent, absolute? Real wisdom rarely shouts. It tends to be steady, a little quieter, a little kinder. If the voice is all panic and doom, you can bet it's a story trying to keep you still. This is the secret sitting under the other secrets. The most persuasive person you'll ever meet lives in your head, wears your face, and isn't always honest. That can feel scary, but it's also empowering, because once you see the trick, the magic changes. You stop grabbing at every thought like it's a command, and you start choosing which ones get to drive. So when the voice pipes up tomorrow with its dramatic headlines, smile. Say, "I see you. Thanks for trying to keep me safe." Then step forward anyway, one small step. Even if your legs are shaking, the mind can lie. Your actions over time tell the truth. And the truth is this: you're allowed to rewrite the story, even while the old narrator keeps talking. Keep walking. Let the new chapter get louder. Let it become the voice that learns, the voice that loves, the voice that tells the truth and still leaves room for wonder. Because the scariest secret isn't that your mind lies. It's that you don't have to believe it. Close your hand on water and it slips away. Grip harder and you only feel less of it. That's the trap with love. Every time you try to hold it tighter, it wriggles out of your fist. Here's the secret most of us wish wasn't true. You don't control love. You can't schedule it, script it, or steer someone's heart by sheer effort. Love isn't a device you operate. It's a living thing that shows up when it feels safe, wanted, and free. Not control, but invitation. Not pressure, but presence. Think about the last time anxiety made you cling. You saw the read receipt, no reply, and your chest lit up with that hot static. You typed, deleted, typed again. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? And underneath it, fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being chosen. Now imagine a different move. You breathe. You send, "Hey, I'm feeling a little anxious. Can we talk later tonight?" Notice the difference? One message tries to grab the water. The other opens a hand and makes space for it to return. Psychologically, giving space creates emotional safety. It lowers defenses and invites real connection because the other person feels understood, not managed. When people feel forced, they push back. When they feel seen, they lean in. It's the same principle behind why mirroring someone's feeling before offering fixes changes the tone and builds trust. You stop wrestling for control and start building a place where love actually wants to live. Picture love like a garden. You don't yank the stem to make the flower taller. You tend soil, give light, water consistently, and let time do the rest. Control is pulling, care is tending. In relationships, tending looks like curiosity, asking real questions, then listening. It looks like boundaries, clear lines that protect dignity on both sides. It looks like gratitude, naming what's good, not taking it for granted. And here's the twist. It also looks like vulnerability, sharing the fear without turning it into a demand. The garden thrives when the environment is right, not when the gardener shouts at the seeds. So what do you actually control? You control your attention. Are you present, or are you in your head, rehearsing old arguments? You control your honesty. Do you say the real thing you're feeling, or hide behind sarcasm and silence? You control your rhythm. Do you create pauses for repair, or run on panic and pressure? These small choices create safety, and safety is the doorway to closeness. A safe space lets two people relax their armor, which is when the good stuff happens. Warmth, laughter, forgiveness. That's the paradox. The less you control, the more love can breathe. Let's ground it in another real moment. A parent hears a teen come home late. The impulse is control. You broke the rule. Hand me your phone. Now, a different path might sound like, I was worried. Help me understand what happened tonight. Then, after listening, here's the boundary for next time. Notice the order? Understanding first, structure second. When someone feels heard, they're more cooperative. When they feel steamrolled, they go to war, even quietly. It's not being soft, it's being smart about how trust and motivation work. And yes, it's scary to stop gripping. It feels like standing on a cliff with your toes over the edge. What if they don't choose you? What if love fades? Here's the hard truth that also sets you free. Control doesn't prevent loss, it just prevents joy on the way. If love leaves despite your open hand, it was never yours to lock down. If it stays, if they stay, it's because they choose to. And chosen love is the only kind that lasts. This is the reframe that saves a lot of heartache. Love is volunteered, not extracted. You shape the conditions, attention, honesty, respect, but you don't steer someone's will. Trying to force an outcome turns connection into a contest, while choosing space and understanding turns a standstill into a breakthrough by shifting the dynamic from opposition to partnership. So ask yourself gently, where am I pulling on the stem? Where can I tend the soil instead? Slow down, name what's true. Make the space safe. Invite, don't insist. Because the moment you stop trying to control love is the moment love has a fair chance to grow. That's the secret you don't want, but deeply need. You don't control love, you create the place it chooses to return. One day, your favourite song will play for the last time, and you won't know it. You'll hum along, switch off the light, and that little soundtrack of your life will slip quietly into memory. That's the secret we try to outrun. Not the loud, dramatic ending, the soft one. The one that happens while you're busy being you. Here's the truth you can feel in your bones. Everything ends. Even the things that feel permanent. The roles that give you a name. The routines that keep you steady. The beliefs that kept you safe. The dreams that taught you how to wake up. They all have a clock tucked inside them, and the clock never stops. Maybe that sounds brutal, but there's a door inside that sentence too. When you know it ends, you start to notice how alive it is right now. A cup of coffee becomes more than caffeine. A long walk with someone you love becomes a little time capsule. Even the job you swear you'll leave one day becomes a classroom, and the lesson is simple: don't sleepwalk. Let's get closer. The identity you cling to will end. the title, the reputation, the story that says, "This is who I am." One day you'll set it down because the company changes, the city shifts, your body asks for a different pace, or your heart starts whispering, "This doesn't fit anymore." That whisper is not a threat. It's an invitation. It's saying, "You can be more than this costume." But there's that spike of fear, right? If the things that define me end, then who am I? You? Not your trophies, not your wounds, not today's victories or yesterday's mistakes. You, who can notice, choose, and begin again. If everything ends, why bother starting? Because endings give shape to meaning. A sunset is beautiful because it does not last. A conversation matters because it will never happen in this exact way again. The end is the frame that makes the picture pop. So hold this up to the light. That friendship you've been half in, half out with. Will it end? Yes. Which means what you say today matters. That work you keep procrastinating on. Will it end? Yes. Which means getting started turns into a kind of gratitude. That habit harming you. Will it end? Either by your choice or by collapse. Which choice feels like courage? There's a gentler side to this too. Your worst season, yes, that ends. The heaviness, the confusion, the second guessing at 3 a.m. Not forever. Even grief changes shape. It doesn't evaporate, but it softens its edges. Knowing that can help you breathe again. You don't have to carry all of this forever. You just need to carry it today. Here's the twist most folks miss. When you accept endings, you loosen your grip without losing your love. You can give fully without making it your cage. You can succeed without turning success into a prison. You can belong to your tribe without letting anyone else decide your worth. Try a small practice. Take one object nearby, your keys, a photo, a worn-out hoodie, and say it to yourself, "This will end." Notice the crack of tenderness in your chest. That's love waking up. When you're honest about the ending, you start showing up for the middle. You pay attention. You use kinder words. You choose to be here. What about failure? Good news, that ends too. The memory of it fades, the edges round off, and what's left is a new shape of you, a little wiser, a little looser, a little more capable of laughing at the version of yourself who thought the world would collapse. It didn't. It just ended one chapter so you could write the next one differently. And the big one, yes, that one, our final ending. We tuck it in a drawer and pretend it's not there, but it is. It gives everything its flavour. Knowing you won't get unlimited, tries doesn't make life smaller, it makes it clearer. You start spending your minutes like they matter. You take the trip. You make the call. You learn the song. You forgive because carrying the grudge is too heavy for too long. Ask this slowly. If this conversation ends, what do I want to say while I still can? If this season ends, what do I want to notice before it does? If this version of me ends, who do I want to meet next? Breathe. There's relief in here. You don't need to be perfect because this isn't permanent. You can experiment, explore, get it wrong and try again. You can let go of roles that no longer fit and still be yourself, maybe even more yourself than before. You can love people without trying to lock time in a box. Let the secret do its work. Everything ends. That's why you don't wait. That's why you let love be loud. That's why you choose presence over noise. Not because you're racing a clock, but because endings make your yes brighter. So take one step today that honors the ending and amplifies the living. Say the thing. Start the thing. Stop the thing. Sit on the floor and watch the light move across the wall. Laugh a little too hard. Cry if you need to. Hold a hand a beat longer, then let go, softly, open-palmed, so you're ready to receive what's next. The secret isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to free you. Everything ends, which means this moment counts. Pause your breath for one beat and listen to the hum around you. Hear that quiet? That's exactly what the universe says when you ask it, "Why am I here?" Here's the secret most people never say out loud. Maybe there isn't a built-in meaning. Maybe there's no hidden script you were supposed to find under a rock at the edge of the world. The sky doesn't answer. The ground doesn't either. And that's scary, right? It feels like standing on a stage with no lines, no marks, no director. Just you and the echo of your own voice. But hold that feeling for a second. Don't rush past it. If there's no assigned meaning, what does that actually mean for you? It means the fear isn't a wall, it's a door. It means every story you thought you had to live, career ladder, perfect partner, worth measured in trophies and titles, was only ever a story. And stories can be rewritten. So let's get honest. We crave certainty. Certainty says, do this and you'll be happy. It says, follow the map. But if there's no cosmic map, then happiness isn't a destination you arrive at after a long, straight drive. It's more like a fire you build, stick by stick. And here's the twist. Because there's no universal script, your fire can look different than mine and still be real, still be warm, still be yours. Does that make you feel unmoored? Good. That wobble is where you find your own balance. Meaning isn't a statue waiting in a museum. Meaning is wet clay on a table. It takes shape when your hands are on it. It dries when you commit. It cracks when you pretend. And if you smash it and start again, that's not failure, that's craft. People will tell you what matters. They'll say legacy or faith or family or freedom. All powerful, all beautiful. But notice this, each one becomes meaningful when someone chooses it. Choice is the spark. Choice turns a random Tuesday into the day you reached out to someone you love. Choice turns a dull job into a bridge that funds your dream. Choice turns a setback into a story you'll tell later with a smile. You are not waiting for meaning to find you. You're building it in real time. Still, part of you might whisper, if meaning is made up, doesn't that make it fake? No. Fiction and falsehood aren't the same thing. A novel isn't a lie. It's a crafted truth. A song isn't a fact. It's a feeling made audible. You know it's real when it moves you, when you feel the weight lift, or the spine straighten, or the resolve settle in your chest like a warm stone. If it changes the way you live, it's real enough. There's a danger here, though, because if nothing is assigned, then anything goes, right? That sounds like chaos, but listen carefully. Your choices still touch other people. Your story interlocks with theirs. When you invent meaning, you also inherit responsibility. Not the kind that crushes you, the kind that makes you careful and kind. You're not writing alone. You're co-authoring with every barista, neighbour, teacher, stranger and friend who crosses your day. Your meaning holds weight because it lands in the world we share. So if life has no built-in meaning, what do you actually do tomorrow morning? You pick one small thing and bless it with attention. Make breakfast like it matters, not because it's glamorous, because it nourishes you and maybe someone you love. Send the text you've been putting off, not because it ends world hunger, but because it heals a tiny tear in your own world. Learn one new chord, one new phrase, one new way to ask better questions. You stack small meanings, they add up, they become a life. Here's another quiet truth. Meaning moves. What mattered last year may not fit today. That doesn't mean you lied to yourself. It means you grew. Trees don't curse the old rings in their trunks. They carry them. You can honor what was and still step into what's next. And when people say, "You've changed," you can say, "Yes, that's what living does." Ask yourself gently, if no one told me what should matter, what would I choose? If I didn't need applause, what would I still do? If I knew no one would judge me, where would I put my time, my care, my courage? Sit with those questions. Let them echo. Let them sting a bit. Then let them guide your hands back to the clay. You'll have days when your meaning feels thin, when you question everything, when the voice in your head says, "What's the point?" On those days, bring it back to one simple vow. I will be a good ancestor to my future self. Not perfect, just good. I'll handle today in a way tomorrow's me will thank me for. Drink some water, go for a walk. Tell the truth gently. Find one thing to make and make it. Find one person to help and help them. That's not grand, but it's honest. And honest carries. Here is the wild part. Once you stop chasing a single sky-written purpose, your life gets lighter. You stop dragging the weight of supposed to. You start noticing small joys that were always there. The warm mug, the honest laugh, the way your chest opens after a kind word, the way your shoulders drop when you put down a burden that was never yours. You start feeling less like an actor, more like an author. And that's where courage lives, not in certainty, but in creation. So yes, maybe the meaning you're looking for doesn't exist out there in the dark. Maybe it exists where your attention meets your action. In the smile you choose to give. In the boundaries you choose to draw. In the work you choose to do, and the rest you finally let yourself take. That's the secret. It's not hidden. It's just quiet. Breathe, pick up the clay, shape something true. And when it dries, if it no longer fits, break it kindly and shape again. Your life isn't waiting to be discovered, it's waiting to be made. And you, right now, are the maker.